Hello, hello, everyone. How's it going? What is this nonsense? Oh, it's Firefox. I was like, why can you see my editing tool? Crazy. It's because it was open. I gotta switch from Fatal Mechanisms mode to Court of Snakes mode now. I am trapped in Fatal Mechanism hell. I have like 52 more edits to do before I can go on to line editing, and I want to explode. It's crazy. I exist. Welcome. How are you today? Hopefully doing good. God, this is a crazy number. This is a crazy number right here. Crazy. Well, I'm going to wait for a little bit longer to see if a couple more people trickle in. But otherwise, I'm just going to kind of get started on my, regularly scheduled broadcast here. Let me close all the other stuff that I don't need. Goodbye. And actually, I'm also going to open up this other thing. Is it this? It is that. I'm a professional. Oh, my tea. I forgot I had tea too. Hold on. Let me go get some tea. I made some tea earlier. Straight up forgot it. Hold on. This tea has been sitting on the counter for 2 hours while I got lost in the editing hole. That's what happened to me. That's crazy. I'm gonna drink it now. I am a fool. Yeah, crazy. I literally made it like 2 hours ago, and then I was like, I'm gonna go sit down and edit while it like cools off, and then I realized I made a mistake. I am a silly Billy. Crazy. Yeah, it's pretty okay room temperature. It's like a goji strawberry oolong and like a white tea. I realized I didn't like this white peony, although it is a component in Terran's tea. It by itself ain't great. But that's okay. Before we get started on the official business of stuff, I did want to say many thanks to people who are subbing to me over on YouTube. I can see Cool Cat the Kid and Canonically Creative as my more recent ones, but there's been a couple of people. So thank you for that. I'm almost to 1,100 subscribers on YouTube, which is crazy. Absolute bananas stuff going on over there. Otherwise, though, the more recent exciting other book news is that I actually need to go over onto Wattpad. Let me see. Oh, thank God it's not AI. I'm scared I'm going to open up Wattpad and get jump scared by AI. Okay, that's the round 3 qualifiers. I guess that was it. Inbox. I need this thing. I gotta go and get my little sticker. I'm gonna click on this. My sticker, because I won round 2 of the open novella contest, and so now I get this fantastic little, look at that little guy. That's cool. So I'm gonna put that over on let me open up my Canva actually so I don't forget that that's a thing that I need to do. You guys can see all the ads that I make for Pubvendo. Shit's scary. Is it in this one? I gotta go find the book cover. I'm like, where is it? Or are these? Nope, these are just... Nope, that wasn't it. It's in here somewhere. Oh yeah, it's this one. With the sexy abs. It's the opposite. There we go. Pretty cool. Hi, Chips. How you doing? We're waiting for a couple other stragglers to come in before we get started. But, yeah, I'm very excited. Can I download this? I'm very excited about Witch in the Woods winning the round 2 of this thing. And I'm officially a qualifier for round 3. Yep, there we go. For round 3. So I'm going to share, download as a PNG this page. Or I don't know why. Hello, just this one. Give me this. Brilliant. Brilliant. Look at all the romance. I'm mostly surprised because I recognize Witch in the Woods is definitely not a romance. So this is where that is crazy to me. Let us upload this cover. It's in the downloads. Look at that. Look at that. Got that little sticker on there. I can at least, when I print this novella, I can be like, look, it won a thing. Look at it. But yeah, crazy. So, I guess I'll do a quick little announcement before I get started. First of all, somehow a bazillion people followed this thing. Crazy. I'm up to like 56 people now, including myself. That's nuts. So if you followed the Court of Snakes launch, thank you for that. I really do appreciate it. For those of you watching the VOD or hanging out, if at any time you want to go follow this thing, I'd appreciate it. It launches in 2 days and 15 hours, y'all. On, I think, Friday at 11 p.m. or 11 a.m. Mountain Standard, and then I'm going to be doing my stream, or not Friday, Thursday at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard, and then I'm going to be doing my stream 2 days, 15 hours. Wait a second, is my math crazy? No, it's not. Yeah, Thursday. I don't know what the fuck is going on. It launches, point being, on the 28th, I think. Let me double check and make sure that's correct, because now I'm second guessing myself. Let me go to the Book Bazaar page, because now I'm like, is that actually when it launches? It should be right. Yep, May 28th, 3 days technically, at 10 a.m. Pacific, so that's 11 a.m. My time. Then I'll be doing stream 30 minutes after launch, and it'll be a fun time. Everybody should stretch before we get started reading. Also, don't forget to drink Wawa. I always find it a little odd when people describe things as mates, particularly when they're both humans. Yeah, that's a little weird. It's a little freaky. It's a little freaky-deaky. Most of the time, I'm not going to lie, a lot of the fiction on Wattpad is legitimately alpha omega, like Omegaverse werewolf fiction. So when they say mates, they likely do mean that it is just some wee-woof shit. But yeah, if y'all ever want to, or if y'all want to back this, I know Danny's already backed it because they're the best. They're fucking cool. And we're 60% of the way funded. So hopefully what'll happen when this thing launches on the 28th, it'll just immediately eject into coolness. But if anybody wants the link to back it, that would be cool. Of course, it is a part of the Book Bazaar campaign. And you can actually back any of these other books. Effectively, the way that it works is, as it says here, back more, earn more. You can claim your backer or Book Bazaar Summer Edition sticker sheet by backing 5 or more projects. On the sticker sheet, it comes with my book cover as a little sticker. It's very cute. And you can also download a sampler pack on itch if you'd like to. Effectively, the way that this thing looks, there's a couple of people in here. There's a Spider Island preview for Tess. Court of Snakes, This Desert Cage sample is what I've got in here. And then you've got a couple of other publishers. Space Wizard is the guy who, the publishing house, I should say, that is feature or launching this Book Bazaar, which is very fun. So you can always go and download those things for free as well. So what is Book Bazaar? During this event, authors and indie presses run their own crowdfunding campaigns with hopes of publishing their project. All campaigns run at the same time, and each campaign cross-promotes one another. Each campaign runs on an all-or-nothing basis, which means if you don't meet your minimum goal, you can't create your projects. Womp womp, sad trumpet. So that's why we're hoping to count on you, lovely reader, to help lift these publishers and really make the Bazaar something special. By backing Bazaar projects, you get extra free rewards, and if you back all Bazaar projects, you can maximize your reward. So if you back 5 Book Bazaar summer projects, you get a sticker sheet, which is pretty sick. So if you want to, like, exploit that, that's pretty fun. Pretty cool. Most importantly, no AI in any of these projects, so you're supporting humans. We like that. We like that a lot. So feel free to check out other projects. These are all the people who are doing streams. The Book Bazaar launch party is happening at 10:30, so that's going to be an hour before my stream. And then my stream is going at 11:30 as well. So it looks like we got a bunch of fun stuff. Tess is also going on the 28th at 10:30 as well. So I'm going to pop into Tess's stream and then jump over into mine, which is going to be really fun. But yeah, I would definitely recommend checking out all of the projects, particularly Spider Island, because Tess is a fucking legend. And if you like my work, you'll definitely like Spider Island. I'm not super familiar with a lot of the other projects in here, so if you want to go and give them a little look-see, a little peeky peek, you should totally do that. Let me know if you want this linky. But you can also find it on the homepage if you go to Backer Kit. Book Bazaar Summer Bonanza is legit over on the other side. So, pretty cool. So I will stop my rambling, my rant for now. Of course, for those of you who have not popped into this stream or are watching the VOD, I'm going to be live reading the conclusion of Court of Snakes, Bitter Truth, Honey Justice, which is the sequel to Court of Snakes, and it comes in this special omnibus that has a bunch of crazy shit going on. It's very glittery. Look at that shit. Oh my god. It's so metallic. It's so reflective. It even has a little dangly bit. It's very important. This is the most important part of the whole book. But yeah, I'm very excited about it, and you can sign up to be notified when this backer kit launches, or you can back it early. So if you want to do either of those things, let me know. If you're watching the VOD, the link to back early is in the description on YouTube. If you're over on Twitch, you're going to have to just go to my YouTubes to go and find that information. So there you go. That's the way that this works. So for those of you getting caught up, effectively where we're at is shit is hitting the fan. Shit's hitting the fan. It's real bad. Everybody's getting shot at. Taryn is sort of out of prison, kind of, and people are now doing calculated attacks all across the city to try and blow shit up, which ain't fun. Not good. And, you know, people are trying their best to dodge political espionage. It ain't going well. So, hopefully you all enjoyed this. Remember that the VODs for this book will be pulled, I think I said June 16th. So, a couple weeks in. Or no, maybe it was the 14th. Either way, the second week of June, I'm going to be pulling these VODs. So, share them with your friends if you want to enjoy them. Hi, Gabriel. Welcome in. We're just about ready to get started on some book reading. I was talking a little bit about my Kickstarter project. If you want to follow along for the launch, let me know. It comes out on Thursday. Or if you want to back it early so that you can access the limited edition early bird version of the book, feel free to let me know if you want to tap into that, because I'd be glad to send the links on over. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And let's see if we can get through. I'm just going to be reading until this book is done, so it may be 2 hours, but it may be slightly longer. So hopefully you'll sit back, enjoy. If you have any questions for me, I'll be stopping in between chapters to answer them. But I hope you have fun with the final conclusion of this series. Here we go. Aftermath. Parissa, the tavern, January of the second year. Parissa's hands gripped the rough adobe as she climbed the outside of the jeweler's, which had been quarantined by the guards and covered in no trespassing signs and stern warnings. After hoisting herself up onto the building, she took a moment to look below her and into the street. Ajax barked orders at the king's former men as if he ran the place, but Taryn had made it clear to everyone inside that Ajax was in just as much control as he was. They formed an organized team, and Taryn instructed everyone to lock the tavern down. Makeshift barricades made of chairs, tables, doors, and anything else they could find blocked the street so they could prevent the guards from coming for them as best they could. Blackwell suspected that the council would send guards to the tavern right away. They knew where Taryn Mahal liked to hide, and it was an obvious choice. While it was still the safest for them to bunker down in an underground location surrounded by a few dozen men that still aligned themselves with the king, it was not hard to find them. After tending to Parissa's wounds, both via traditional medicine and the magic of the cards, Blackwell and Ajax spent the night organizing a plan to keep as many people safe as possible, until they could figure out what to do. As she shielded her eyes from the bright sunlight, she gazed over the city. Half of Zaya had been razed, and the banners of New Na'a hung from the tallest buildings in the northernmost district, the blue color bright against the white clay and gray stone. "It's a disaster is what it is," someone said. Parissa turned to find who she had originally climbed up to look for. Perseus sat with one leg up, head resting on knee, the other dangling dangerously over the edge of the building. He looked out over the city with the blankness of someone who had never slept. Parissa could see the stress and the scruffy beginnings of a beard that peppered his cheeks and the dark circles under his eyes. She stepped to him and sat, remembering the days they used to spend doing the same thing while patrolling Na'a before everything. It's going to be okay. Parissa touched her shoulder to his. I have spent my entire life trying to grab for some sort of stability. Perseus sighed. When I was a kid, every waking moment was spent wondering where my next meal would come from. Half the time it was good enough if your food had worms in it. After everything I've been through, I thought it was the luckiest break in the world to get chosen by the elite, to be able to support my family. All for nothing. Not for nothing. We're going to get through this and then we're going to get out of the city forever. What if I don't want to leave? Does that make me a traitor? No, you're... Parissa chose her words carefully. No. You're looking for comfort. That's all. Stability. The outside doesn't bring that. Either way, I've got nothing here. Any security I had with the elite was contingent on my loyalty. How could you do that? Parissa ground her teeth together. She had a feeling she knew where this conversation was going. I'm sorry. It felt like someone had reached their fingers underneath my skin and grabbed my bones, jerking them about. I couldn't move, couldn't think. Just do. Never do that to me again. I don't really have control over what the cards decide. The Emperor is a commander card, a war card. Maybe it's time to just be rid of them, Perseus spat. Ever since the king started to make a presence with them, it's just been non-stop bloodshed in the city. First with Talbot, then all this. Everywhere those cards go, death follows. Parissa had not really thought about it that way. She thought the card's a gift, a blessing, something that could be used as a ladder for the oppressed. It's the best weapon we've got against everyone else. Without it, we're just a bunch of people with swords. They have guns. Perseus shook his head and bit his bottom lip, holding back something on his mind. I just don't know how much I can take, Parissa. My mom is in a bunker in Na'a right now, and I'm fine. I'll be fine. But what if you're not? Perseus locked eyes with her. What if this gets so bad that something gets you and I can't stop it? Parissa took Perseus's hand and rested her head on his shoulder. I won't let it happen. We're together now, and you don't have to worry about the council running you ragged. You can stay by my side. We need to resolve this quickly. I'm not letting this get any worse than it already is. I have to just keep telling myself that Esmond and Vina are fine. We'll get it sorted, I promise. Do you really think blowing a hole in the wall is going to fix it? I don't think that it's necessarily the best way. We need to find Ami and see if they can help us out. I'm hoping that they are already sounding the alarm outside and we're going to get some kind of backup. Perseus's hand tightened into a fist as it rested on his leg. What if they decide to wipe us all out? We don't know them out there. I don't think Ami would betray us like that. We don't know them. There's a lot we don't know. Parissa drew a card and flipped it over. 8 of Swords. With as many rumors going around as there are, we can't really trust anyone, but that's okay. We just have to go with the flow and make sure we don't accept anything as fact until we know for certain. You got all that from a piece of paper? They have a lot to say. Then we need to make sure that we have as much information as possible. I'm not going into this blind. I'll talk to Terran. We go and get Ami, since it seems that they have the best luck with the computer, and then using them we can hopefully get the last bits of information we need to make everything clear. Once we have that, we can make a new plan from there. Perseus slipped his fingers in between Parissa's and let out a deep sigh. I'm not going to lose you. You won't. I promise. Poor Perseus this entire time has been like, bro, I hate these things. Literally since book 1. He's like, bro, don't get that away from me. Don't touch me with that. Nasty. Arcanum. Terran, the tavern, January of the 2nd year. I'm sorry, Ajax. I just can't make heads or tails of these. Terran watched the woman work, her tiny fingers picking apart the insides of a decimated deck of cards. She pulled her goggles from her face and blew her pink hair out of her eyes, dyed using the bright fruit of a cactus. She had spent the entire night plucking apart the deck, and even Terran was surprised at what he saw. Slowly and delicately, she had peeled layer after layer of paper only to reveal metal and patterns made of quicksilver. Taryn had never seen anything like it, but it certainly did not look like a paper card. "That's all right, Nissa. You tried your best." Ajax leaned back in his chair and looked down at the dissected cards on the table, working out some great puzzle in his head. He and Taryn had spent the entire morning along with the many helpers from inside the tavern putting up barricades and assigning watches to make sure elite guards could not infiltrate their defenses. Like vipers circling in on a rat's nest, Taryn felt fingers closing around them slowly until they let out one final gasp for air. Nissa stood, her several pockets of trinkets and tools jingling as she did so, and pushed the cards back in Taryn's direction. "Until I know what I'm looking at, there's not much more I can do." "I need Ami," Taryn muttered. "Who's Ami?" Ajax shuffled the cards back together, save for the one that had been totally pulled apart. "An outsider. Someone from beyond the wall." "See, I had heard rumors that something like that was going on, but I didn't know if they were true." "I've been out there." "No joke. And what's the verdict?" "We need to get people out of the city as soon as we can. This entire situation is very wrong on many, many levels, and as soon as we can set them free, the better off they'll be." "You don't think that life is sometimes better in a cage?" Ajax prodded. Taryn raised an eyebrow, curious if he was playing devil's advocate just for the fun of it, or if he genuinely believed it. "No, not this kind of cage. Getting out of the city is going to prove extremely difficult, unfortunately. We've got all eyes on us in this place. My men are saying that the elites have swarmed this location and are waiting for us to make a mistake. I'm not sure why they haven't made their move. It's because they don't know how many men we have in here. For all they know, we could counter their forces quite effectively, and on top of that, we have 2 card users. Parissa and I are like our own small armies under the right circumstances, and I'm sure that makes them nervous." Ajax nodded. "So we leave the city, get Ami, and then we sneak them back in. Then we have to take a look at these things to see if there's anything more they can tell us." Taryn shook his head. "I don't have my hopes up, but there's not really anything more we can do. I've never seen anything like this in my life. Whatever kind of technology it is, it's beyond our scope. We really need to resolve this as quickly as possible. When do you want to leave?" "Tonight." Taryn nodded with resolution. "Midnight." "I'll get ready then." Ajax stood his chair screeching as he slid it away from the king's desk. "You're coming with me?" "I'm not letting you go alone. I'm going to ask that Perseus and Parissa stay here to hold down the fort. Without them, this place will be overrun, but you need someone to watch your back." Taryn nodded. Thanks. Sure thing, kid. Try and get some rest. We have a long night ahead of us." Ajax closed the door to Lexus's study behind him, and after he left, Taryn let out a shuddering sigh that shook his entire body. He ran his fingers over little notches in the desk, places where he knew Lexus had stabbed a knife into, and realized a little bit of dust came up with them. He knew some of Lexus's entourage cleaned the study occasionally, keeping it from becoming a home for scorpions and spiders, but not as frequently as if he still lived there. From a secret compartment in the side of the desk, Taryn opened a drawer to reveal a leather pouch inside. He turned the pouch over in his hands a couple of times, and then pulled the king's deck from inside them. There they were, still with a gaping hole from Talbot's blade in them, just like Lexus had when he died. Still stained. The justice card rested on the bottom, and the woman holding her sword and scales looked as though she were crying from the stains that smeared down her face. A tremor rumbled through Taryn's chest, and suddenly a dark spot dripped from somewhere, leaving a perfectly circular droplet on the card he held in his hand. A tear had fallen from his eyes onto the card. He had not touched these cards since he put them away in the desk after Lexus's death, and he realized in that moment that he missed Lexus more than anyone in the whole world. He missed Lexus more than he missed his own parents. He clutched the cards to his chest and sobbed there, wishing that the king was there to help him navigate the complexity of the situation. Taryn now suddenly had to juggle the people of Sagano going at each other's throats, and that was not something he had anticipated. He would have been much happier if the transfer of power had slid into place smoothly, and if he had to merely tackle the situation with Talbot and then move on. He knew that it was foolishly optimistic to hope for that, but it did not make the overwhelming nature of reality go away. Lexus's studies still smelled like him. It smelled like candles and incense and burnt wood, all the things Taryn had come to associate with comfort. Taryn sank further into Lexus's chair and clutched the cards to his chest as though at any moment a strong wind could blow them away. And then the door to the study opened. Blackwell opened the door, looking down at papers in his hands. Darren, I have a few logistics questions for you. Oh. They locked eyes, and Taryn righted himself as quickly as he could, wiping tears away. He was sure he looked like a mess. He had not been crying softly, and he felt his face flush from both the tears and the embarrassment of being caught in such a state. He smeared his nose across his sleeve in what probably looked like a childish display and sat up. Yes, sorry, what can I help you with? Are you doing all right? Blackwell sat in the chair across from Taryn and put his papers down. I didn't mean to barge in on you. I'm holding up. If you like, I can bother you with this later, give you some time. No, you're fine. Taryn sighed and attempted to put the cards away into the pouch, but fumbled with them in his shaking hands, corners caught on the leather, and he could not quite get them to go in. Are those more destroyed cards? Where did you... They're the king's. Lexus's. Taryn put the cards down on the table and flipped Justice over. These were in his hand when he died. Blackwell nodded and looked them over but did not touch them. Were you close? Closer than my parents. Over the few years that I knew him, he ended up understanding me more deeply than they ever did. It's not to say that they were bad parents, I guess. They weren't. They were just busy with work all the time, and Lexus was different. He shaped me into who I am. Well, blood or not, he did a good job. I'm sorry for your loss. We have to let the people go. It's what he'd want. Speaking of that, Blackwell pushed papers in Taryn's direction. I think we may have found the source of a lot of our issues. Taryn nodded and looked at the documents that were handed to him. Before him was a list of individuals that could have been involved with or responsible for the most violent activity in the city. Where did you get this? Kelly. Do you know him? Apparently, he's been infiltrating groups for years and has just become our most valuable resource for navigating this particular situation. He's been not only posing as an informant for the Creed, but also used to work for the king. Moreover, he used to be a hired bodyguard for Na'ad diplomats for a while. So what you're telling me is that he can't be trusted. He's given us some really good information. If I may, I think I may have some suggestions as to how to proceed. Taryn nodded to encourage him to continue. According to Kelly, the best way to deal with the Creed is to prove yourself to them. If you can show them that you two are an ambassador for truth, they'll leave you alone. We don't need to side with them per se, but we need to get them off our back. We don't need them to kill us. You're suggesting we just continue to let them burn everything to the ground? Unfortunately, I don't think there's much we can do about that with the manpower we have. All we can do is guarantee safe passage out of the city as soon as we can, so once the Creed is out of the way, we'll be able to forge a straight path forward. After that, we're going to need to make some kind of formal address. To the people? Yes, give them details on everything we've uncovered, and then we set them free. Blackwell nodded and took the papers from Taryn. Now that we have this list of people to look out for, we can either avoid them or take care of them, whatever you decide. We play defensively for now, but that's incredibly useful. Taryn paused and put the king's cards away into their pouch. I wanted to say thank you. Thank you for what? You didn't have to stand up for us. You sacrificed everything, your job, your marriage, probably. There's a difference between reaching for an opportunity and exploiting people, and I refuse to be the latter. Taryn laughed, though he probably should not have. Isn't that what a con man does? Those days are behind me, as I've said. Blackwell clarified, picking at a piece of flaking wood on the table. I did what I had to in order to survive, but that doesn't mean I have to continue to do it now. Besides, I only really scammed rich people out of their money. There's a difference between punching down and hurting people who don't deserve it, the people of Sageno at this moment, and punching up. Well, I appreciate it. It's the least I could do. It's about time things changed in this place anyway, even if it means we must claw tooth and nail to do it. Good job, Blackwell. That's what we call growth. I want to take a brief break for a second to let ads play out. Almost sounds like a circuit board. Weird, huh? Crazy. Crazy. The cage is on fire, Ajax. Ajax is just the this is fine dog. He's just sitting in there like, wee! Yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody's looking at these cards like, what are they, though? Yeah, Kella is an interesting character. Some of these characters were created by backers from the original Court of Snakes Kickstarter campaign. So it was really fun trying to weave those guys in a way that didn't make it bloated. So I added about, I think, like 10 characters to this that weren't originally in my plans. So kind of interesting. Kelly being one of them. This is fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I like to imagine that Ajax is played by Liam Neeson. Hey, shout out to YM Lumaris for backing my backer kit campaign. Thank you so much, Lumaris. You are amazing. If that actually is a good shout out to make. If anybody wants to get a really good book, you guys should all check out. I'm going to give a quick shout out to this author. You should check out Law of the Dragons YW Lumaris. I don't know why I keep saying YM Lumaris. I am crazy. I flipped the letter upside down. This is YW Lumaris. It's a dragon shifter political fantasy. It's the first in a series. And there is gay and demi romance with an ace spectrum flair to it. So, huzzah! We love good representation. But Lumaris just backed my campaign. So now we got it. We're slowly getting there, y'all. We're slowly getting there. We're making it happen. So thank you very much. I do appreciate that. That is awesome. Slowly but surely we climb up the hill. All right. That puts us at, let's do some math. That puts us at 63%. Can I do math correctly? Is that right? Yes. 63%. We're making it happen. Thank you very much. I'm hoping that I launch this and people go to be like, oh, I want to go back it, and then they see that like 7 people have already jumped on board and they'll just go, ooh, and then go for it. So thank you for the early support. Creed. Parissa, the cathedral, January of the 2nd year. Parissa's boots fell upon the cobblestone, her silhouette nothing more than a shadow as she stepped beyond the threshold of the barricades that had been built around the tavern. Taran had announced that he would be the one to retrieve Ami, to call in reinforcements, but Parissa had other plans. Hello, Happy Goat. Welcome into my live book reading. I'm reading from my upcoming book, Court of Snakes, Bitter Truth, Honey Justice, that comes out on Backer Kit on the 28th, so this Thursday. Welcome in and enjoy the reading. If you have any questions, let me know, but I'll kind of stop and chat in between chapters. The mercenary in white, Kella, had delivered to the tavern quite an interesting list. The list contained names of people, insurrectionist mercenaries, religious fanatics. Some reported to Councilman Shraga, lapdogs for the new order. Some had their own covenants, eager to start up fledgling forms of government in the chaos. And then there was the Creed and its members. Kella had delivered a list of their most dangerous, to those who currently prowled the city looking for weak spots. According to Kella's connections, Widow Mag had completely disappeared. Whether or not the Overseer had killed her was all up for speculation, but Parissa had every intention of finding out. Taran wanted to wait out the situation, see if tensions between the Creed and everyone else would calm down. But after nearly losing her life to inflamed citizens who had been swept up on all sides of the conflict, Parissa had other plans. She became one with the shadows, and she vaulted up onto the roof, following the training that her father had forced her into. It was a blessing and a curse, and she fell into her own thoughts for a moment as she imagined what her life would have been like had she not endured the hardships and the brutal physical strain that came from being an elite. She did not want to thank her father for anything that he had given, but she could not help but be grateful to fate that it had led her to that point. Something rattled behind her as she landed on the tiled roof of another Otson building, and she jumped out of her skin. She spun on her heels, whipping her dagger out from its sheath at her side and pounced at whoever had followed her. Leaping with the speed of a cat, she tackled the person to the ground, pressing her blade sharply against their throat. "Hey!" they hissed, "it's me!" Only after her eyes adjusted in the dark did she realize who had followed her up the building. Perseus shifted underneath her, his hand firmly on hers to keep the blade away from his exposed throat. "Oh, sorry," she whispered in return, sliding off him. Once she stood, she extended a hand to him and pulled him up to his feet. "You scared the daylights out of me." What do you think you're doing? I heard you creeping out of the tavern and didn't want you to do anything dumb. She sighed, the words stuck in her mouth for a moment, knowing that he would be upset by the betrayal that was about to follow. I'm going to the Creed. Why? He demanded. We need them on our side, or at least off our backs. Perseus crossed his arms, his chest forward. It reminded Parissa of their early days when she had been told he would be her superior. For a moment, he thought that it was his right to boss her around. You should have told me. I have a relationship with Widow Mag, even if it's only a small one. I want to see if she is still alive and if she'll call off her forces. And if they decide to kill you, what then? I have my cards. There we go again. Perseus rolled his eyes. They're not infallible. What if someone took them from you, damaged them? It's just you and a knife and your life then. You're becoming reckless. Parissa nodded and took a deep breath to keep from saying the wrong thing. She knew why he was upset. She should have told him. She had just been worried that he would tell her not to go, and she would rather take matters into her own hands. Are you coming with me or not? The question seemed to take him by surprise, and he raised a challenging eyebrow. We should go back. We can't risk it, she pressed. Please. Perseus scrunched his face and raised his finger to counter her, but eventually he sighed and dropped his arm to his side. We're walking into a hornet's nest, you know that, right? I know. It's just the two of us against a small militia. You realize how bad those odds are. I do, but I'm hoping it won't escalate to a fight. He nodded and took time to think through his next point, his eyes darting back and forth in the moonlight. You're not going to change your mind, are you? No. Let's go then, he huffed. Fine. Lead the way. Parissa took his hand and gave it a firm squeeze. Thank you for trusting me. It's not that I don't trust you. It's just the thought of you getting hurt turns my insides to rot. She stood there with him in the January air, her breath fogging into clouds. She leaned in and pressed her lips to his, the warmth of the two of them creating a cocoon, if only for a moment. His beard prickled her skin, and she took a deep breath of the sandalwood smell from his clothes. After a moment, she pulled him into a tight hug. I promise I'm not going anywhere. We're wasting moonlight, he added, pecking her on her forehead. When we make it back, we'll talk more about it. I'm going to need you to just talk to me. Don't leave me in the dark like this. Let's go. The two of them dashed across the rooftops like sparrows, darting in between buildings until they came upon an area that forced them to the ground. The area of Atza that had been completely burnt to a crisp had been abandoned, and the blackened edifices that lined the streets stood eerie and quiet as though the two of them moved through a graveyard. It might as well have been. Parissa's boots touched the ground as she landed from a roof next to a pile of bodies that had been haphazardly moved out of the road, some of them burnt and unrecognizable. Perseus put his hand over his mouth as they passed through the streets and passed the nameless dead. Though because of the smell or out of grief, Parissa did not know. Soon they stood before the cathedral, which still endured, tall and untouched amid the chaos. Even the building next to it had burned, but somehow, as if by the will of their god, the cathedral stood strong. Perseus raised his fist and banged on the door, the hollow sound echoing down the street. The two of them waited in silence, holding their breath. Parissa pulled her hood up to her head to protect her ears from the chill, or up over her head to protect her ears from the chill in the air as the moments ticked by. Finally, after she had just thought about telling Perseus that they should go, someone came to the door. It creaked open to reveal a beaten and bloodied Creed member, their robes torn and scorched. One of their arms had been bandaged, and they bowed their head to their guests. Welcome. Please, come in and take refuge from the storm, they said. Crazy. Well, welcome in, Happy Goat, if you're still here. My name's Tycho. It's nice to meet you. I'm live reading some of my work. I am an award-winning 11-book author, so if you want to check out any of my stuff, you can go ahead and take a peeky on my website. I'll do a quick spiel really quick to show off what I'm reading, because I'm trying to get some traction on this thing. It's been going great so far. We're reading from my book, as I said, Court of Snakes. Oh my god. Of course it won't focus. Crazy. Hello? Okay, well, there's that. It's Court of Snakes, This Desert Cage, and Bitter Truth, Honey Justice. Let me just show you this thing. Dang you, crazy webcam. But yeah, Court of Snakes. It's a YA dystopian political fantasy. The omnibus comes with both books, so if you're interested in following this campaign and checking it out once it goes to backer kit on Thursday, crazy, it's like literally 2 days away. I just dropped the link to that in the chat as well. We're already like, I think 65% funded before launch, which is insane. So many thanks to the people who are very eager for this book. I really appreciate it a lot. But if you like tarot cards, if you like books like The Hunger Games, if you like a lot of political intrigue and magic, ace, arrow representation, POC representation, this is definitely the book for you. I hope you enjoy your evening at home, though. And I do appreciate the hangout. Thank you for the lurking and listening, and I hope you enjoy the book. Endless Desert. Terran. The Outside. January of the second year. We do this quietly, Ajax ordered. No missteps, in and out. This isn't my first time, you know? Terran tightened the belt around his waist, securing the pouch with his cards in it. Look, it just seems like a terrible, terrible idea to walk out of here without a sword or a gun, or at the very least something to defend yourself. I do have defense. I have the cards. They better be as powerful as you say, Ajax muttered as he stepped out of the tavern. I'm not dragging your corpse all the way back here. Step quietly, Terran whispered. Their men are hiding on rooftops and are cloaked in camouflage. When we get up there, I'm not climbing up onto the roof. It's safer in the shadows of the streets. Look, Terran rasped. I understand that you think you have some kind of authority here because of your age, but I know these streets, especially Atza, better than anyone currently alive. I've woven in and out of every rooftop and every alleyway for the last 3 years of my life, and I know the city's map like the back of my hand. I know where all the guard posts are and how elites like to hide. Most importantly, I know how to avoid them and how to dodge bullets. Either you need to keep up and listen to what I have to say, or stay behind. Ajax raised his eyebrows, his forehead wrinkling in surprise. You don't know who you're talking to. I've lived here my whole life. I'm sure, but you must remember that I was trained for this. The king made me a tool, a weapon, and I'm in charge of getting us out of the city. Now, do you want to follow me where I know the exit is, or would you rather stay behind? Ajax shook his head and pulled his hood up to shield his face. Fine. Lead the way, your majesty. Don't. Terran shot up the side of the tavern and onto the roof, where he dashed in the direction of the massive hole that had been blown into the wall. He could only hope that Ami had survived the walk back to their commune and that they waited for him on the other side. When they arrived at the hole, Terran cursed under his breath. 4 elites had been posted around the blast site to make sure no one slipped out, with a captain at their head. Terran grabbed his cards and pressed one into the back of his hand, knowing that they were either going to slip through with the help of magic or fight their way to the other side. Something solid materialized into both of his hands, and a gentle hum filled his ears. He looked around him to find that 2 staves with spiked metal caps on the end of them that glowed silver in the moonlight had appeared in his fists, and 3 of them, made of only moonlight themselves, floated around his body. By God, Ajax muttered under his breath. So they do work. Looks like the only way through is with a fight. You take the roof on the left, I'll take the roof on the right, and we're going to jump them on my signal. Ajax nodded and darted off, silent as the grave, and then a tile he stepped on came loose, crumbling off the edge of the roof and shattering on the ground with a loud crash. All 4 of the guards whipped their heads skyward to make eye contact with Ajax, who shouted, "Shit!" much louder than he should have. Terran knew he had only mere moments before they were neck-deep in a fight, so he utilized the distraction, however brief, to jump down behind the elite closest to him. With one swing, he took them by surprise. The elites were still built for running, not for defense, so Terran aimed his staff at the vulnerable, exposed parts: arms, hands, ankles, and stomach. When he lunged with his staff, the others swirled to follow, pelting the elite with a barrage of wood, metal, and magic. The elite cried out, and the others realized they were potentially surrounded. To arms! There's more of them! The captain turned to Terran's direction, drawing 2 blades, and rolled their shoulders in anticipation of the brawl. A blade sliced through Terran's arm, shredding through clothing as metal danced across his skin. The elite moved like nothing he had ever seen. Perseus' new training regimen had paid off, but now Terran realized the cost. Ajax jumped into the fray from above, pulling his blades from his side. Metal clashed all around them, sparks flying as blades hit buildings, cobblestone, and armor. Bullets flew from the guards that had drawn their rifles and lodged into surrounding structures. A shot whizzed past Terran's ear, and he shook his head to clear it of the tinning sound it left behind. The magical energy that hummed off his staves seemed to boom as the weapons hit his enemies, shaking them and sending some unseen force through them. Every time Terran missed, he cursed under his tongue. The king had taught him better than this. He knew he was better, and yet their blades beat him to the ground. His mind focused on only what was in front of him, and even though Ajax cried out from being hit himself, it was as if the entire world had stopped. Terran could see nothing else other than the ferocious, hungry eyes of his attacker. Under-armored. That was how Terran felt. It had always been his way to wear as little protection as possible, move as fast as possible. It had been a mistake bringing Ajax along, inexperienced and loud. Terran's blue and white robes stained red as he became dizzy from the loss of blood. He took a deep breath to center himself, attempting to ease his shaky hands. Despite his focus, the strikes with his arms were weak. He wavered so intensely that even his magical staves hovered around their targets, their forms glimmering and shaking, unable to strike. A bullet lodged itself in his thigh. Metal rang out as something hit the ground. The captain in front of Terran smacked him across the face with the pommel of his sword, sending him into the dirt. His ears rung out as his head hit the ground, and he attempted to shake stars out of his eyes. He dragged himself back to a position where he could make eye contact with the captain and realized his wooden staves had been knocked from his hands. Fortunately, his cards did not fail him. The astral staves pelted their target, knocking the captain back away from him, if only just for a breath. Let me see here. 1 second. I'm also doing a final proofread on this as well. That's alright, sometimes you find some stuff. In the moment that he scrambled across the cold ground back toward where his weapons had rolled. So the little sovereign rat came crawling out of his hole, the captain growled. Trying to get out of the city? Leave us all behind like the coward you are? When Terran turned back to see where the captain stood to hit him, the tip of a blade shot down toward his face. He dodged to the side just in time, the sword lodging in between cobblestones uncomfortably close to his neck. With animalistic strength, the captain jerked the blade from the stone and brought it up again. People like you were never meant to lead anybody. A sharp pain tore through Terran's arm as something was lodged into his shoulder, making a horrendous crunching sound that echoed through his head. Fuzzy blackness toyed at the edge of his vision as he watched the captain turn his other sword in his hand toward Ajax. One of the elites had fallen to the ground dead, a puddle of blood running along the cobble beneath Ajax's feet. Ajax frantically looked between his 3 enemies, turning his blades in his hands. And then nothing. Gee, I sure hope that Parissa and Terran aren't leaving the bar both at the same time and leaving the place pretty much undefended without their army-like might. We can only hope! Nat 1 stealth. Yeah, Ajax was not the right person to bring to this fight, clearly. But yeah, even big publishing houses have to do one final proofread, so this is the one that I do before I release the product. Pretty fun. I haven't found that many mistakes, though, so that's how you know I did okay. Truth. Parissa, the cathedral, January of the 2nd year. A sea of red encircled Perseus and Parissa as they recoiled closer together on the top floor of the cathedral. Creed members that were as unharmed as they could be took menacing steps closer, strategically blockading any route of escape. Parissa squinted to look into the darkest corner of the room, the back only faintly illuminated by what few candles had been lit. The remaining Creed members looked as though they had been injured by explosives, most of them covered in char from the fires and missing limbs. Those that had survived thus far bled through bandages and sported bruises on their skin. Their numbers would not last much longer if they continued to be battered by elite forces, and Parissa could see that as clear as day. You know, it's quite rude to crawl into someone's home in the middle of a war, someone ground out from the blackest shadow at the back of the room. A war you started, Perseus spat back. You lit the entirety of Zaya on fire and didn't expect resistance from the only thing keeping the city together? The Creed member in the shadows stood, and Parissa could barely make out their outline in the darkness. You mean the elites that are licking the boots of the council member who thinks they're in charge now? The same elites who are rounding up innocent civilians claiming they're attempting to stop an insurrection when really those same people are trying to escape? I heard from a little bird, Commander, that you're not welcome in their club anymore. We've come to ask you to pull your forces out of Atsa. Give us a little room to breathe. Parissa interjected, holding up an arm in front of Perseus to prevent him from doing anything rash. Now that we certainly have kicked the hornet's nest, just as you said, it doesn't help us that you're trying to burn the districts down. We want to help get people out of this place just as much as you do. Time is ticking, Parissa saw of terror. The Creed leader entered the light, clad in leather armor stained red from dye with a bloody smear across their face. Parissa could not tell if it was blood or paint from that distance, and her eyes scanned the crowd for Widow Mag. She was nowhere to be found, and the person in armor that stood before her looked uncannily like Widow Mag herself. The two of them could have been siblings. Their faces were so similar, twins even. If we continue to stand still, the Na'a embassy will walk all over us. They'll stampede through here like the mammoths they ride. I'm not asking you to stop fighting. Just stop causing as much chaos as you have been in Atsa. Feel free to pick off the guards that are causing trouble, by all means. Parissa, Perseus hissed. Those are my men. I've trained them, know their names and their faces. They're not just kindle you can throw into the fire. The Creed leader smirked, a knowing grin spilling across their face that made Parissa's stomach churn. Your loyalty is admirable, Commander. It really is. But they'd shoot you in a heartbeat. That's a typo. How dare you? Perseus spat, taking a threatening step forward, hand on his gun. You owe me some respect, and I will not be talked to. Would you like me to take care of them, Overseer? A Creed member asked, their hand on the hilt of their blade. No, not yet. There is no need for unnecessary bloodshed, was all the Overseer said. May I speak with Widow Mag? Parissa asked, hoping to get some answers. At the very least, she knew Widow Mag was open to friendly conversation. Ha! A Creed member laughed. An absurd request. Now move along. The Overseer is incredibly busy, and he does not have time for... The Overseer held up a hand to silence his follower and raised his chin. What exactly is it that you would have me do? My main mission is to clean the streets of Sageno, of those who would seek to prevent the escape of citizens beyond the wall. The people of Sageno are trapped by their own fears, so to make the inside inhospitable will also push them out. They have to escape the smoke somehow. They're going to die out there, starve. The fear on Perseus's tongue could almost be tasted in the air. Not if what your friend Ami says is true, they mused. I'm aware of everything you have been talking about inside the palace. The truth is apparent. How might you be persuaded? Parissa asked. If we were to tell you that our missions are one and the same, that Terran and Perseus and I want to free the people and expose them to the truth just as much as you do, what would we need to do to have you call off the creed? We just need time to let things settle, to finish gathering evidence before we present it to the people of Sageno and let them decide. Don't you think they deserve the opportunity to choose? The Overseer thought on it for a moment, his eyes moving between Parissa and Perseus's faces. You'll need to prove it to me. Perseus has one foot in both worlds. He can't accept the truth. That much is obvious. He's tasted a little bit of their poison and won't shake it off. I wish to test your mettle against the will of my God. If you live, we will do as you ask and give you a set amount of time to collect the information you need. If you die, well, that speaks for itself. I won't play any of this lunatic's games, Parissa, Perseus hissed. This is crazy. What kind of challenge did you have in mind? Parissa projected across the room. The Overseer nodded, and a man with coily hair that fell to his waist stepped forward from the crowd, adjusting his armor on his shoulders. His hair had been dyed with some kind of natural pigment, turning the gray strands an uncanny shade of blue, but his age still showed through his beard. He, too, had streaks of red smeared across his face, and in his hair his pale skin stark against the pigment. This is Jacques the Silencer, the Overseer explained. He has been chosen as a messenger for Sazdona the Deathless. He is her arm, her weapon, and has gone undefeated in every fight. If you can best him, we will lay our arms down for 2 weeks. Do you accept? Parissa, this isn't a good idea. Perseus whispered. I have a bad feeling. We can take him. It's 2-on-1. Parissa nodded. We accept. A smile spilled across the Overseer's lips, and he nodded. Fight, then. Fight for my amusement. I can't. Fight against the crazy old man. The cards. Terran, the outside, January of the second year. The first sound to enter Terran's ear was a faint din, irritating and persistent. He scrunched his face and brought a hand to his ear to drown it out when someone grabbed his wrist, pushing it back down by his side. He turned his body in the bed before he found himself in, and instantly regretted it. His left shoulder caught on something, and the movement sent a stinging pain up his arm and into the side of his face. He cried out, and the same unseen hand cradled his elbow. "Whoa, easy, easy, kid." Taran blinked awake, blinded by cold and clean blue light. The first face he saw he recognized. Ajax. Another stranger sat next to him, worry plastered across their face. Pink hair cascaded over soft, wide shoulders, and their blue eyes darted up and down Taran's body. It was a color as bright as Ami's, unachievable by any natural dye. "I don't know, Ajax, I'm no doctor. We should call it in," they said. "You know we can't do that, Allison, they'll kill him." Ajax shifted in his seat while Taran found that he struggled to speak. "You two are going to get us fired, and then they're going to shoot us in the head," a third person interjected, out of Taran's sight. "I already barely stitched this poor kid together. This is a mess." Taran's mouth felt as though he had swallowed cotton. All the saliva had been sucked from his tongue, and it felt swollen and huge behind his teeth. "Oh, he's awake," Allison sighed in relief. "Take it easy, Taran. Don't sit up too quickly," Ajax instructed. "The meds are still wearing off. You may be a little disoriented. I was able to fight off the elites. You were badly injured." Taran attempted to sit up again, but the same pain from before shocked him into submission. He tilted his head toward his toes to find that his left arm had been put into some kind of sling. "The sword almost severed your shoulder. I tried to pull the cards from your pouch and get them to go, but I don't know how to use them." Ajax hesitated, and a deep breath rumbled from his chest. "I'm sorry. Dr. Cox did everything she could, so all we can do is wait and see how you heal." A shadow moved at Taran's other side, and he craned his neck to find a person scuffling about in a white coat. A blue mask covered half of their face, obscuring any identity that they had, and they pushed up a large pair of oval glasses. "Where?" Taran croaked out, his throat stiff. "Where are we?" "Outside," Ajax explained. "While you were bleeding out, these two approached me. They said they're here to help, keep you from keeling over." "I'm so sorry." Allison cradled her head in her hands and shook it back and forth. "I should have done something sooner." As noises and colors, sounds and smells returned to Taran's realm of perception, a beep droned. He rolled his head to the opposite side, following the noise, his gaze meeting a machine. He followed it up to a bag filled with fluid, down a plastic tube, to someone's hand. From the hand, his eyes trailed to a face. Not just a face. Talbot Sauveterre's chiseled features were etched out by the harshness of the cool light above the two of them. But something was different about him. He had lost weight, and a gray pallor toned his skin, Taran thought. He never imagined that he was alive. Taran's eyes widened, and he attempted to sit up again, but with one firm hand, Ajax held him down. "If you try to get up again, we're going to have to strap you down. They already used the bed with restraints on Talbot, so don't make me get creative." "Restraints?" Taran followed Talbot's body down in the bed, and found that Ajax did not lie. Straps had been fastened to the bed, and Talbot was securely wrenched down, his legs restless and shaking. "What? How?" Taran looked at the only person he could really turn to see. Allison. "Who are you people?" "I'm Allison Parker, and this is Dr. Harriet Cox. You don't know us, but we know you." Taran knew with certainty that he had never seen either of them ever in his entire life. "I know you've been digging," Allison continued, lacing her fingers together as she leaned her elbows on her own knees. Her eyes dropped to the floor like a guilty child confessing something to a parent. "Looking up things on Christian LaHale, your great-great-great-great-grandfather. A long history. I work for Lycus Security. You might have read about it while going through all the old documents." "The Sagano Project?" Taran's head spun. "I'm not one of the higher-ups. I'm a part of the monitoring team. We're paid to keep eyes on Sagano at all times, make sure no one gets out and that all the systems are still up to snuff. We're also in charge of making sure people don't get in." Taran shook his head, stunned, trying to clear it of the buzzing. "You've been watching the inside this whole time?" I'm going to take a brief break to wait for ads. This guy, yeah, right? He's like a barnacle. He just never dies. "Hi, Goose. I don't know if you're trapped in Ad Town." "Hi." 3 against 1, he was able to fight him off. Did he strike a deal? Is he lying or is he that good? Honestly, true. We're trapped in a town, trapped in hell. Using Jeff Bezos' money to write anti-fascist fiction. It's fine. I'm almost out of tea. I might take a break and get some more tea. Ad breaks are hell. Truman Show, right? That's what it feels like. That's what it's starting to feel like. Shit's about to explode. This is it. This is the can of worms moment. Crazy. I wasn't really sure where this book was going to go, and I got to this part and I was like, oh, I understand now. Hi, Goose. How you doing? Sit back and enjoy the book. If you have any questions, let me know. Welcome free from the ad hell. Also, too, spoiler alert, just in case for anybody listening in, this is indeed the end of the book, so if you do care about spoilers, let me know. This may not be the stream for you, but I'll be back tomorrow morning with a regular writing stream. You've been watching the inside this whole time? We have cameras everywhere. Eyes that allow us to see things remotely. I recognize you might not understand some terms. We put up new ones every so often, take pictures from the sky with drones. Like metal birds? I've been watching you. I've been watching everything for a while. The doctor put a pillow behind his head, helping to prop him up. You're stressing him out, Allison. So you're telling me that you all have had the ability to let us out this entire time? Ajax spat. You were just watching us suffer? No, I promise I wasn't. Allison quickly put her hands up as if to block an onslaught of words, but Ajax held his tongue. I've been trying to help you all get out. I've been with Lycus for a while now, and when I started as an intern, they didn't tell us anything. All I knew was that it was a government job, good pay. As soon as I knew otherwise, Taryn gazed at her, waiting for her to finish her sentence. He had no words to describe how angry he was. I started to think of a way to help you all out without putting my head on the chopping block. I needed a way to bust you out without exposing myself. My friend in the department, Zach Lycus, he was like you. He's related to one of the original founders of the project. Nepo baby. A what? It doesn't matter. He had connections and got into the company on Daddy's dollar. He saw what was happening and decided he didn't like it. He wanted to create some kind of tech that we could plant to keep a better eye on individuals that we thought were influential in some way. He was brilliant, really. Microchips transferred via dermal injection. There were less than 10 out there, and the nanotechnology in the chips could be remote operated, allow us to get vital readings of the people we were attached to. Also hear the surroundings at any time. You say we, Ajax pressed, leaning in her direction. He ground his teeth so tightly he looked like he could bite through steel. He told me about the project. Needed someone to help him distribute the tech without it being too suspicious. I suggested disguising the tech as something inconspicuous, potentially something religious or superstitious. I picked. She trembled, her words hanging on her tongue. Ajax raised an aggressive eyebrow. Well? Taryn's heart jumped into his throat and tied itself into a knot. What did you just say? It doesn't matter, Dr. Cox spat, walking to the foot of the bed where Taryn could see her, crossing her long arms across her chest. We're all screwed anyway. Lycus shot Zach in the head as soon as they found out he was tampering with the experiment. And that's what they're going to do to us, especially since there's only 5 years left on the project. How has this whole thing not collapsed? 100-year watch? You can't tell me that money grows on trees. Ajax leaned back in his chair, and it rolled a little, wheels on its feet. Allison wiped away at something twinkling in the corner of her eye. Christian LaHale was a billionaire, which was rare for his time, oodles of money inherited from his family. He put everything he had into the Sagano project. His family digs for oil, so they just told the government that they were digging for oil here. No one can touch the land without a permit. The Sagano project makes money from the oil. The whole thing keeps running, and we We take down the data. That's all we do. Dr. Cox looked out the window, and Taryn followed her gaze. Endless desert stretched into nothingness. We take down the data, and we don't ask any questions. And Talbot? Taryn looked again at the bed and the machines. Talbot seemed to recognize his name, and he turned his head a little, but did not open his eyes. The security team saw him leaving the city after you... Allison swallowed like she had eaten razor blades. Well, after you told him to leave. We couldn't let him just wander off. He wouldn't stop walking, so we had to sedate him. He's been here for a while, and we've been keeping him alive as best we can. You should have just let him die, Taryn ground out. You have a lot of explaining to do. Ajax adjusted a sword at his side. Taryn needs rest, Dr. Cox insisted. We have time. You're out of the city, and no one knows you're here. For now. For now... Remember, if you like my work and haven't followed the stream, you should totally give me a follow. An indie author would appreciate it. And of course, if you want to check out my book on BackerKit, you can do so and sign up for either the launch notification or pledge to the project. I hope you're doing good, though, Goose. It's nice seeing you. People they were attached to, so their favorite characters, right? Oh my god, it does that if you're rich and it's in the stock market. Oil money, it's always oil money. Oh my god, they let so many other people die, but not Talbot. It's not like he could have gotten out of the city, surely, right? I'm sure that they saw him, like, clawing at the walls, and they were like, we have to help this poor fuck, like, this is bad. But yeah, just to show it off, now I can do that because the camera's not being stupid. This is the new special edition book for Court of Snakes. This is the omnibus edition, so it is both books in the whole series in one book. And my favorite part about it is that it actually, for the first time ever, I've been able to print books with full color illustrations in them. So I'm very excited about this. And it's got a little fancy ribbon, and it's got little fancy and like cloth end thingies and sprayed edges, and it's crazy. So I love it. I'm very excited. I'm stoked. If you haven't, of course, followed the project and you do want to back it, you can do so here. There are 56 people that are gearing up to back it. And we've already got 6 early backers. So thank you to everyone again for doing that. I really do appreciate it a lot. Somebody bought books for like their whole family, which is crazy. So that was awesome. And if you want an early backer link, let me know. I do have limited discounts on the omnibus itself, so you can save $10. It's like saving 20%-ish, give or take. And also, too, keep in mind that if you do back this, it will not pull from your account until June 30th. So you have a little while to prep some funds in your account. So if you want the link, let me know. Oh, thank you, Goose. You're so nice. You're so nice. Yeah, I'm really stoked. I plan on making, since this company exists now, I want to make special edition versions of all of my books. So I do plan on running Kickstarters with discounted special editions for effectively the rest of my projects into forever. I'm so stoked about it. I love the company. And the print quality is like immaculate. It's amazing. All right. Red. Parissa, the Cathedral, January of the 2nd year. Blue and red, like a fresh bruise. The silencer slid into the ring, discarding his red robe at the edge of the crowd, his body covered in a network of scars from previous fights. Burns, lacerations, bullet holes. It seemed that nothing had come close to slowing him down. I don't want to fight, Parissa, Perseus stammered but raised his rifle nonetheless. I didn't agree to this. The Overseer didn't say we had to kill him. Parissa dug her feet into the floorboards and drew her dagger, her free hand hovering over the cards at her side. She who sees will tell us if you are worthy to carry the truth for her, the Overseer called over the growing unsettled tension in the crowd of cultists. The truth is heavy, deadly, and many succumb to it. Do you have what it takes to see this through to the end? Suddenly, every single candle in the room blew out. The darkness ate the space, swallowing it in blackness. Parissa held her breath. Footsteps charged toward her, thundering across the old wood, and something hollow and dense slammed into Parissa's side just below her breastplate. It knocked her backward, causing her knees to buckle, and she spun in the darkness trying to find what had hit her. And then, in a burst of light, an explosion flashed in front of her eyes, leaving spots in her vision like a sparkler. How? A flashbang? Parissa watched the silencer slash through the air in Perseus's direction before being lost in shadow again. Perseus's face scrunched in momentary shock as he recovered from being blinded. Cards. She thought, he must have cards. I have to find them. Truth hurts, someone whispered in her ear behind her. She who sees will make sure you can carry the weight. The silencer in the cover of darkness slammed his hand over Parissa's eyes, and she grabbed at his wrist, attempting to pull him off. His palm radiated an unnatural heat, and she suddenly found herself blinded by a bright flash of light. Wiggling lines of light danced in and out of her vision even after his hand left, and she found it even harder to see than before. Something dropped to the ground, and metal grated as someone drew a blade. Despite being so disoriented, Parissa drove her hand into her bag. She may not have been able to see, but she could still fight. Something materialized in her hand, and she ran her fingers over it, finding that the cards had given her a goblet. Because she could not look into it, having been doubly blinded, she took a risk and threw the goblet at the ground, spilling its contents at her feet. Something changed in the air around her, an electricity that she could feel dancing off her skin and hair, so the cards must have done something. Out of the corner of her eye, images danced. Flashes of moments past played at the edges of her vision, but she shook them away, trying to focus on the task at hand. She took a deep breath and listened, homing in on where her opponent stood, and sliced. Her blade made contact with the silencer, and he hissed out as metal crossed his skin. Parissa! Perseus shouted from somewhere. Where is he? Parissa called back. He's by me! Something smashed Parissa in the face. The silencer cried out in pain, though Parissa knew not from what, as she reeled from the blow she had just taken. As her head spun, the images crowded the quarters of her vision and overtook her. She blinked a few times to try and clear her head, and then she stood in her old house. It had been several years since Parissa had seen the inside of her house in Na'a. This was before the palace, before her father had become sovereign, before the embassy, before everything. Sunlight streamed through the open window as her mother sat at the table in the parlor, her deft fingers pulling a needle and thread in and out, of an embroidery project she worked on. Parissa stepped closer to her and looked at her, having not seen her face in so long. It was almost unreal how clear she was, how beautiful she looked, how the light caught the singular gray strands in her dark, curly hair, how the corners of her eyes bunched in concentration as she looked down at her work, how her fingers barely showed any age. Darling! The voice almost made her jump out of her skin. Parissa turned to find her father there, mugs in his hand. In that light, he almost looked soft. A predator in disguise, Parissa thought. She knew better now. When her mother looked up at him, she smiled genuinely, a sparkle in her eye that Parissa had forgotten. Hello, love. You're back early from work. Thankfully, the factory didn't keep me, Talbot muttered under his breath as if cursing someone or something. How was your day? Peaceful. Calm. Parissa finished her lessons for the day, but Esmond decided to squeeze in some extra credit, so she hasn't come home yet. The vote at the palace didn't take as long as I thought it would, so I got to come home early. Good. I'd take your job any day. Talbot let out a sigh like the weighty generator that powered the elevator in the palace, and it sank into the empty armchair opposite her mother. He set the mugs down onto the table, one closest to himself and one next to her. Parissa's mother nodded and set her project onto her lap. Things will get easier. I promise. I have too many things on my plate. People weren't meant to work like this. We're trying to make it easy, I promise. We've got something circulating to limit the number of hours that they can require you to work every day, which should allow people to take more breaks. Won't help if the wages don't go up. Parissa's mother paused. That's a very good point. I'll bring it up. Talbot nodded and ran his finger around the rim of his mug. He stopped at a chip and paused there. I just thought I would be farther by now. When I envisioned my life, I didn't envision this. You're happy, though, aren't you? We have a nice life, a nice home. Parissa loves you, and she's so bright. That's the problem, isn't it? We're all just too damn smart. What do you mean? You know as well as I do there aren't enough resources to cater to the amount of people in the city. There are too many of us. If people continue to better themselves, eventually there will be nothing left for anyone. Parissa's mother paused and looked out the window at something that Parissa could not see. Well, what about you? Didn't you benefit from that? I would hope that I am better than average. I think some people are worthy of reaping the benefits of upward mobility, and some are not. I know it sounds cruel. What frustrates me is that in this cage we are nothing but animals. The strongest and the fittest survive, and that is all there is to it. If opportunities are given to the weakest of us, it will kill us all if it isn't stopped. I can understand your fear, but we'll figure it out, the council, all of us. We're working to make the system function so everyone thrives. Sovereign Lahal is a bright woman. She'll make it better for everyone. But what if she ends up making it worse? You can't force water from a stone, and that's all that's around us, stones and sand. Parissa's mother turned to her husband and looked deeply at him, attempting to dive into his mind, but finding only a wall. What's got you thinking like this? I just wish I could make a more direct change. Those of us who deserve to survive need the best chance, and everyone else... Well, he shook his head and held his hand up. It doesn't matter. I'm sorry. I know you probably don't want to think about it after thinking about it all day. He took a sip from his mug, steam rising from the tea inside it, and warmed his hands with it. Parissa's mother patted him on the leg. It may be hard, but everyone will make it out of this if we just work together. No one has to get left behind. She took a sip from her mug, and then Parissa's throat clenched. She realized what she was witnessing only after it was too late. And after just a moment, the mug fell from her mother's hand and shattered into a million pieces on the ground, sending ceramic everywhere. Parissa ran to her mother, but it was as if the room stretched, and no matter how fast her feet carried her, the farther away her mother got. Her mother convulsed in the chair, foam spilling from her mouth as her eyes rolled back in her head, and eventually the foam in her mouth turned red with blood as she bit her tongue. "Mom!" Parissa cried out as she attempted to stop what unfolded before her. "Mom, no!" I have to step in and do something. Talbot rose from his seat. I can't just watch everyone starve. Even if I can only save a few, even if it means that I have to lose everything, I must discover who is the worthiest and put a stop to the rot that is bleeding through Sageno. Your seat will have a good replacement, my love, I promise. Lord Talbot, a stranger interjected. Take her body to the wall and to the emergency gate. Go a few miles outside, dump her body, and then return. No one will come looking for her. Parissa cried out as a blinding white enveloped her, and racking sobs throttled her body. You bastard! She cried. She didn't have to die! Parissa! A familiar voice rang through her head. Parissa, you can't leave yet. Come on! You have to fight! Parissa removed her hands from her ears in the noise. Someone stood before her, their hand extended. Her eyes met Perseus's brown ones, a smile on his face. It's okay. We can move forward together. I'm here with you, by your side. I won't ever leave you behind. With one shaky movement, Parissa leapt forward and grasped Perseus's hand as the bright white shattered into 1,000 fragments of glass underneath her feet, giving way to utter darkness beyond. Perseus pulled her to her feet and grasped her arm. Parissa, you okay? A shadow moved behind Perseus, and Parissa pushed him out of the way. Perseus, move! Parissa drove her dagger in the direction of the shadow and sliced through the silencer's arm as he raised a crude weapon made of old wood and metal above his head. As soon as she struck, Perseus whipped around and sliced the same spot, only to miss by a hair. The silencer cried out, If she has foreseen my failure, so be it! In an explosion of light and color, shapes of a ghostly nature burst forth from the ground at the silencer's feet, a barrage of illusions and fragments of light and glass, thousands of possibilities of outcomes, worlds past, present, and future. In their blinding light, they sliced at Perseus and Parissa like shards of broken, stained glass. The fragments chased Perseus across the room but failed to hit anyone and merely created light for them to see, putting them at a slight advantage. Parissa realized that her cup had created duplicates of herself that stood around her, the entire room filled with illusions of all sorts, whether hers or the silencer's. The arena became a battlefield of light and sound, images unreal. Perseus jumped out of the way of a piece of illusion glass, debris slicing his face, and he and the silencer danced around each other, unable to connect a strike. Deftly tiptoeing through the glass fragments and twirling around the reflections that mirrored everything that could have been, Parissa passed images of her and her father locked in a loving embrace, and of her blade inside her father's chest, blood coating his white uniform. Her dagger struck true, and she and Perseus fought back to back. Drops of her own blood trailed down her cheek as she realized she had been cut by something, but it didn't stop her. She lunged forward, dagger glinting, and sliced across the silencer's hand. He cried out and dropped the weapon he had been battering Parissa with, leaving an opportunity for Perseus to strike. Despite being unarmed, the silencer slipped away from Perseus's blade like oil. He spun with uncanny accuracy despite wobbling like a top and attempted to grab Perseus by the shoulder. "Perseus, look out!" Parissa cried. Parissa stepped away, in the way of the silencer's hand, pushing Perseus to the side once more. With one tearing motion, something sharp punctured through Parissa's uniform directly into her core. She looked down to find a mirror, glimmering and bright, reflecting a scene back up at her. A ceiling shimmered there, somewhere she recognized, but the image soon became obscured by a puddle of red. Her own blood spilled onto the glass, and she put her hand into it, her white glove, coming back redder than the reddest dirt in the Black Rock Desert. The silencer stood still for a moment. "You lose." Her world became swimmy. It felt as though she had fallen through the glass. Everything went upside down, and she hit the floor in the Sovereign's room. She clutched her head and held still for just a moment, trying to reorient herself. "My lord," a man's voice said, deep and weighty and not unlike an animal's. I'm just struggling to understand." "What is there to not understand?" That was her father. "It's simple, really, plain as day. Eventually, people are going to find out that we're actively killing them. Not necessarily by execution, but what you're doing is a death sentence." Parissa turned and found her father standing by the tall windows overlooking Sageno. Jakob Wolf stood by his side, arms crossed as if he were solving a mathematical equation. Her father tapped his finger on his own arm slowly and methodically. "Jakob, you're missing the point. We have one chance. Don't you understand? That's it. There is nothing else out there." "But Sulfur—" "A lie! There's no one there." "How is that possible? Rune Gildenheart, he's some kind of phony. I'm sure of it. Made up a grandiose story to impress everyone, I think. Explain why his father rejected him. We all know why he did that." Talbot chuckled. "It doesn't bother me. He's a good asset and further proves my point. We are all that we have. We are alone. And because that's the case, we are running out of everything. Food, water, all of it." "My God." Wolf covered his mouth as he turned white as a sheet, looking out over the desert, hoping to find some comfort there. "You understand why I must do what I'm doing? The weak need to be cold, that's all. I have the resources that help me figure out which of them to eliminate, and by slowly killing off the problem, we also happen to benefit. Our pockets grow wider, our resources denser, and the weakest of us die." Jakob Wolf nodded and closed his eyes. "You're right. If we are truly at that point, we have no other choice." "There is always a choice," Parissa muttered mostly to herself. "You both are cowards." "Parissa!" Perseus's voice cracked out through the room, desperate and grating, full of fear and pain. "Parissa, oh my God, no!" Parissa stood in the room and walked to her father, who lingered there, unable to hear her. "We're going to kill them all, Wolf," he said, "one day at a time, day by day, until our numbers are manageable. Starve them to death, empty their pockets, and throw their bodies to the desert." "Won't they get suspicious?" Wolf squinted into the sun. "You think too highly of them. You forget that they were born to be lesser, just as the old way says." "They won't even know." "Parissa, just hold on." "You're a ghost," Parissa said, balling her hands into fists. "I won't let you haunt me anymore." With one shove, Parissa pushed her father from the palace window. The entire room tilted, shaking as if caught in an earthquake. She found herself on the floor of the cathedral, Perseus holding her hand. He had stripped his jacket from his body, pressing it into her wound. He fared no better, bleeding from his face and arms, holding on by a thread. The silencer grabbed his weapon and approached slowly, raising it over his head, when the overseer cried out, his voice echoing through the room. "Stop!" he cried. "Stop! Wait! Let her decide." The silencer stopped and stepped back, bowing in submission. As he moved away, he clutched his own side and left a trail of blood behind him. Perseus attempted valiantly to stop the puddles of blood that came from Parissa's body, but with little success. "What do I do?" Perseus shouted, frantic and desperate. "Parissa, what do I—" Hey, stay calm." Parissa choked as she fumbled with her hand for her cards. "I need my cards." "It's not gonna help, Parissa. They don't fix anything. They just make everything worse." Tears rolled down his face as he trembled there, suddenly very much anything but a commander. Trust me, if they want me to live, I'll live. I don't want to leave it up to them. It doesn't mean anything. Everything's all been a lie. Anyway, none of this matters. A pool of red cloth dripped at Parissa's side, and the overseer spoke over her. That's the nature of truth, isn't it? It's all one beautiful nightmare that we must navigate through, but you're wrong. It does mean something. Everything. What you choose to do with that truth defines you. And the truth is, Commander Perseus, that she is going to die if you don't make a decision. You did this! You let that monster kill her with whatever kind of hellish illusions. No. See, this is where you falter. Truth is not an illusion. It is the path to anything but. The overseer dropped to his knees next to Parissa. You must accept what you see. Otherwise, you will be chasing illusions all your life. The truth is that I have been blessed by my God. We all have been by swearing ourselves to her. The truth is that these cards are magic, though we don't know how. The truth is that we must go beyond the wall to escape the prison we are in, and the truth is that you must let go of your fear of losing yourself. You have to trust her. Damn it! Perseus swore and reached for Parissa's cards. His hands trembled as he dropped a few of them as he gave them to her. Please, everything that is good in this world, let this work. If she who sees in the forces of fate, in whichever form they come, wish for her to live, she will live. The overseer stepped away and paused for only a moment. Let us see if she thinks Parissa is worthy. If she cannot survive this, she will not survive what is to come. Your God doesn't control the cards. She doesn't control anyone. Hush, Perseus, hush. Parissa fumbled through her deck and finally drew one, her fingers sticky with blood. She pushed the card to the back of her hand, and the chill of the familiar sensation of ink spilling across her skin sent goosebumps up her arm. Then, with the calm of a tidal pull, a wave of light washed over her, rippling up from the mark on the back of her hand and across her body. Sea foam of light poured into every scrape, every cut, and filled them, stitching Parissa back together. Perseus's tears splashed into the healing mystic water that poured from her card until all of it had absorbed into her, leaving her exhausted, but new, like a moon that had just become full. Perseus heaved a deep sigh of relief and clutched her hand as her card faded, pressing his forehead into her chest. Oh my God, never do that to me again. Perseus, you're hurt. We need to get you back to base, Parissa replied, weak and trembling from the card. I'll be fine. You survived. As I promised, the overseer said as he returned to his cultists, I will hold off my forces for 2 weeks. You have until then to convince the people of Sagano of the truth. If you cannot do this, I will do whatever it takes to set Sagano free, even if it means burning it to the ground. Crazy shit. I would like to remind everybody that I wrote this using RNG. I had a deck of tarot cards that I was drawing from to do magic. And I actually, honest to God, thought Parissa was going to die right there. If I had not drawn the moon, she would have died. Legit. Would have been fucking crazy. I'm going to go ahead and take a brief break for a second because ads are going to start, and then we'll get right back to it. Crazy shit. Turns out also that apparently the Creed of the Ceaseless can do fucking magic too. No idea how that works. That shit's crazy. I believe, though, he was using a combination of hallucinogenics and flashbangs, though, if I had to make my best guess. Nutso shit. Everyone else can just starve. Yeah, poor fucking Talbot thought he found the how-to guide of how to save the people and then was willing to literally throw everybody else under the bus. Absolutely fucked up. Really shitty. Unfortunately, he's still alive, though basically vegetative. Yeah. I mean, Terran didn't kill him, technically. Crazy. Alright, we're officially in ads. I'm going to go ahead and chill out for just a second. It is very spicy inside this apartment. Oh my God, the meme! Danny the meme! The meme. I can't. This is fine. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's literally everybody inside the city. They're like, this is literally my hell. It is so spicy in this apartment. Let me figure out. I don't know if there's anything that I can do to get it to not. It is like 85 degrees Fahrenheit here, and I do not like it. God, my apartment is trying to cool to 69 degrees, and it can't do it. It's like 73 in this apartment, but I think it's actually hotter. Crazy. All right, we're back from ads. Here we go. Truth. Terran, the outside, January of the second year. Terran, you need to lie back down, Ajax ordered. We don't have time, Ajax. I need to find Ami now. Terran pulled himself up from the bed, his shoulder making an awful popping noise as he did so. Where are my cards? Everyone in the room froze. Ajax hesitated, but finally reached toward the table between Terran and Talbot, who muttered in his sleep. Ajax's hand hovered above Terran's deck, and he said, They're here. Ajax passed Terran the bag, and Terran drew a card, the smooth surface of them gliding across one another. When his eyes beheld the image on the card, he paused. He had hoped he would draw something that would help him, but the tower was the only thing that stared back. He shook his head and returned the card to his deck, closing his eyes for just a moment. A radiating, burning sensation trailed its way down his arm, and as his hand rested on his lap, he realized he could not feel anything in his pinky or ring fingers. The damage, it seemed, would be irreparable. A small price to pay, he thought. He looked at his deck again. This whole thing has to come down. Yes, but it can wait for a few more days until you're healed, Dr. Cox insisted. No, it can't. You don't understand. We understand perfectly well. As we said, we have eyes on you at all times. We've watched the destruction that your city has doled out upon itself over the last few days. It's an all-out war. Then you understand the gravity of the situation. Terran swung his legs over the bed, blood rushing to his head, and steadied himself as best as he could. I need to find Ami. Who? Allison asked. They're from a commune not too far from here. They're going to contact some sort of federal authority, they said. Oh, no, they're not. Dr. Cox stepped in front of Terran, preventing him from standing. Lie back down. Don't make me. Terran held up his hand, hovering it above the cards, ready to defend himself. I will use force. I am not going to let any more people die. And I'm not going to get executed for something I wanted no part in. Terran slammed a card onto his hand and felt the magic hum up his skin. In an instant, 7 solid staves had woven themselves into a shield in front of him. Where he was weak, the wood was strong, and the shield pushed Dr. Cox away from him, giving him enough room to stand. The cards fluttered to the floor, knocked from his lap. The shield floated of its own accord, bullying her around the room and preventing her from coming near. As Terran turned to walk away, she managed to reach over the shield and grab him on the shoulder. Reflexively, he spun and threw his arm out. The wood barricade whipped through the air with movement of his body and smacked her directly across the face, knocking her into the equipment that kept Talbot alive. He grumbled as things were jostled, and Dr. Cox cradled her mouth, swollen and bleeding. Stop! Ajax hollered out and put his hands up. Stop! Terran, stop! Oh my God. Allison rose slowly from her seat. It's real. Terran shook away his card and pointed aggressively at Allison. I will not hesitate to do whatever I need to get out of here. One of you is going to give me a ride to Sulphur in whatever vehicle you have. Allison slowly dropped to the ground and ran her fingers over the cards, afraid to touch their surface. When she did so, nothing happened. And nothing happened, she shook her head in astonishment. Terran lifted his hand, and the cards floated up from the ground to form a neat stack in the air in front of him. He snatched them, putting them away in his pocket. Sulphur, Now, be kind to them, Terran, Ajax cautioned. They saved your life. Pardon me for being a little irritable, Ajax, Terran spat. I've spent the last several days watching everyone I have responsibility over die, and spent several countless days before that in a prison, completely unable to do anything about it. I'm going to take the chance that I have and fix things. How do they work? Allison interjected and then flushed as she realized her question had been out of place. She covered her mouth and shook her head. The cards, how do they work? Terran met her eyes and paused for a moment. If I tell you what I know, will you drive me to sulfur? Allison and Dr. Cox exchanged glances, and finally Dr. Cox let out a lengthy sigh. You can do what you want, Allison. I'm staying here with Talbot, you said his name was? I have to figure out whether or not I'm going to kill him. We can't let him suffer like this. Kill him. Terran looked to Talbot, who had settled, and shook his head. You can't. That's not what the cards decided. They decided? Dr. Cox pressed. If I understand correctly, you put him in some kind of somnambulistic coma of your own free will. Terran shook his head. No, not in the slightest. I merely drew a card. They decided for themselves what his fate would be. Justice is blind. And this is what the universe had in store for him. But how, Allison pressed, how do you control what they do? I don't. I'm a conduit. The significator on the back of my neck allows me to use them, and if you don't have faith in the cards at all, the significator won't take. What did you say? Significator? Terran turned and lifted his hair, revealing the mark embedded into his neck. I'm the Knight of Wands. I will forever be. No way! No! Allison scrambled for a notebook and began to write hastily a scratched-out shorthand that Terran could not read. She raised something small and similar to Ami's tablet and pointed it at Terran's neck. Is that a tattoo? No. Terran passed his hands over his eyes. He did not have time for this. It's a mark given by the cards. Dr. Cox, do you understand what this means? The dermal microchip that Zach made, they were definitely transferred by touching the cards just like we had intended, but how do you explain that? It's not my job. Dr. Cox returned to her work. This is way above our pay grade, Allison. Listen. Allison sighed and put her notebook down. Zach and I, we made this tech to keep an eye on the people who we thought were important. We wanted to slowly gather evidence that this experiment was unethical. We attached the first implant to someone deep in the lowest district of your city. Zaya. Terran stiffened as he waited. Time was running out. That's the one. She died pretty quick, picked off by guards. We used the implants to track their movements through the city so we could position our cameras, film them, get the evidence we needed for an expose. When she died, we tried again, and then they started giving the dermal chips to each other. We only made 10 decks total. Each card had its own dermal implant in it so that the decks could be used multiple times as tracing tools until we had to make new ones. Ajax sat back down into a chair and rubbed at his temples. That doesn't explain the magic. It doesn't explain anything. No, it doesn't. Allison's eyes darted back and forth as she tried to put the pieces together. I don't understand. We planted a false seed of information in the beginning to the first holders of the decks. We told them that certain cards could be used to identify them, protect them, but that was to make them believe that the cards were special so they'd hold on to them and not throw them away. Right, the significators, Terran stated again. So if you know about that, why are you surprised? It was made up. A lie. The face cards didn't hold any significance over any of the other cards in the decks. They were all the same. The dermal implants are in every card, so it doesn't make sense that these significator cards are special in any way. These cards are outfitted with simple, thin computers. They have GPS in them. They can read specific things about the person holding them. Pulse, oxygen levels, sleep, fitness. We could use that to collect data about the actual health of the people of Sagano and use it to argue that they were sick. You couldn't see that with your eyes, though? Ajax spat. Or are you so asinine that you assume starvation was normal? Our hands were tied, don't you get that? Dr. Cox slammed her equipment down and turned around. They will shoot us. For whatever reason, Christian LaHale's precious experiment will cost us our lives. They're trying to prove a point. To the world, I guess. That this way is the better way. That the old way was always the most reliable, but it's not true. I know it's not. Allison reached out for Terran, and he flinched away. She returned her hand to her lap. Somehow it seems that the cards have taken on a life of their own. We might not understand how, but if you all live, maybe we can figure that out." "You should have let us out," Taryn stated. "You're torturing thousands of people." "I know that. Zach and I did what we could in the best way we could think of. Not only were our lives at risk if they found out we were tampering with the data, but they have the ability to end the operation right away. There are these things, drones, like birds. They can drop bombs, kill everyone and everything in sight. They could blast the whole thing off the face of the earth if they wanted to. Call it an accident." "Well," Taryn said as he straightened out his clothes, adjusting his bag, feeling particularly exposed without his armor. "I'm going to go to Ami. We're going to get someone who can stop this properly, and we're going to end it. We're going to tell people the truth. And if we die..." Dr. Cox clenched her fist, her hands shaking. "What then?" "I won't let it happen." "Oh, and you can guarantee this with your magic paper?" Taryn drew a card and flipped it to face her. He could already tell what was on it without even looking at it. "Justice?" A small smile spilled across his face, and he felt Ajax shift behind him. "Justice. What about this one?" Dr. Cox pointed to Talbot. "I've tried everything I know to revive him. Whatever you've done to him, I can't undo. I won't bring him back. He killed my parents. I can't. He's too dangerous." "Let our justice system try him then. As a doctor, I swore an oath. I've tried everything to not let him die, but I can't let him suffer like this." Taryn raised his chin in defiance and drew another card. He glanced at it for only a moment, but then turned the card to Dr. Cox. "Fate's already been decided. I won't revive the devil. It's cruel. He is cruel. He deserves a worse fate than the one that's been given to him, but that's not for me to decide. Let's go. Taryn, you shouldn't have to look at him any longer." Ajax stood and helped Taryn to the door. "Let's go get your friend and end all of this, once and for all." We're getting close, y'all. It's almost the end. Yeah, I feel bad because these people could have done anything at any point, but they were so afraid of getting, murked that they just didn't do it. Super sad. Was the Justice one random and the Devil? Yes, both were random. Yeah, it's crazy. Writing this book was insane. Yeah, all of the cards were random. Absolutely nuts. Oh, is Jace coming to save my life? He's coming to save my life, guys. He's opening the window. We're okay. Thank you, Jace. I appreciate you.
Do you need, water or anything?
I probably could use a tea refill and some snacks. I'm getting kind of hungry, but I don't know what I want.
You want a cheese stick?
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, it was absolutely crazy. Yeah, it was I don't know. I obviously am a very spiritual person, and I read tarot as a part of my daily life. But, there's a lot of things about this book that I find incredibly uncanny because I started writing it in 2022, give or take. And there are a lot of things that happen in this book that have been mirrored within the last year that our administration has done that is freakishly similar, and it's really scary. If you had picked a certain card, would you have had Taryn wake Talbot up? Yeah, if the cards had decided that was what was going to go down, definitely. But in the end, yeah, they just let him suffer. So kind of crazy. Yeah, it could have gone a very different way. Enlightenment. Parissa, the tavern, January of the second year. I told you, we just have to buy some time. Parissa rubbed at her temples, though it did not help the throbbing headache that had begun to form there. We don't have time. I submitted a tip to the FBI, but they also told me to call the local police if I believed anyone was in immediate danger, which, Ami stood on their tiptoes to look out the small window that sat just above the cobblestone in the tavern, though they did not have to stretch much. I would definitely say is a yes. Local police said they're on their way out here with SWAT. I had to call 3 times because they think I'm lying. We need to gather evidence. Show them you're not crazy. Taryn held up Ami's tablet. Take as many pictures as you can. We'll prove to them that we're here. I can definitely do that. I can't believe you dragged me back in here. Ami slid the tablet across the table that Parissa, Perseus, Terran, and Blackwell sat at. Your council member friend threw me out into the desert with the hope that I'd die, I think. I'm glad you didn't. We found someone on the outside. Thank you, Jace. Someone who wants to help us. Allison Gray, she said her name was. She's a part of the security team that keeps an eye on Sageno. She has all cameras pointed on us right now and is working on getting in touch with the media. It puts her at great risk, but it's time to bust this thing wide open. Terran, we need to consider very carefully how we handle this. Blackwell adjusted himself in his chair and leaned forward on his elbows. If we do this incorrectly, everyone will die. Parissa raised her chin. If we don't do this, everyone will die. You both have already almost lost your lives in the last 24 hours. You're lucky you're still here. Blackwell spat. Murdoch, this overseer has given us just a moment, but people don't care. He's already lit the powder keg, and even though he's pulled his men off the battlefield, everyone out there is still rabid. I'm sure you saw it on your way back in. Terran looked over his shoulder at Ajax, who lurked in the corner but said nothing. We have the evidence now, Councilman Blackwell, Perseus said. With the documents we have gathered, the things Terran has seen, the pictures, and even Ami themselves, we could call a meeting in the square and just start screaming the information from the rooftops. That will start a riot. Don't you see? They'll just burn everything to the ground. Not if we can control it. If we can keep people calm. There is no calmness in this. Emotions are high, and now people are terrified. They will want to flee as soon as they can. Then we let them. Terran stood, his left arm trembling as he attempted to support his weight on it. We blow a hole in the outside and let every single person see. Ajax! A door burst open in the room, the door to a back cellar swinging wildly as someone rushed through it. A woman with pink hair that Parissa had never seen slammed several books onto the table. Blackwell nearly jumped out of his seat, and Terran leaned over to look at the books. Ajax, I figured it out! How the cards work! Blackwell's eyes fell onto the cover of the book on the top, and he raised an eyebrow. You're kidding me. Go for it, Nissa. Ajax stepped closer to the table. What is it? Nissa pulled a strand of her hair behind her ear, her eyes darting frantically over the page that she had flipped open to. I'm sorry, Terran, I had to. I was going through the King's books, and I found something interesting. This particular title is about anomalies all around the world, and I think that there may be some kind of anomaly underneath us that we don't actually know about. But it isn't proven? Blackwell shook his head. Without hard evidence, we know nothing. But we could prove it. These anomalies supposedly change the way the trees grow, bend them backward toward the ground, fluctuate gravity, mess with your head, all sorts of stuff. That doesn't prove anything about anything. See this? Nissa pointed to a map somewhere far south of Sageno. There is something here called a vortex or something, and apparently their existence is hotly debated. It's some kind of geological phenomenon. It causes the electricity in the air to get messed up or something? I'm not a geologist. I work with machines, so some of this is like way over my head. Terran ran his finger down the page, skimming the information. Do we know what this electricity thing feels like? Some people describe it as tingling. Others talked about vibrations emanating from the ground, or you can almost feel it on the back of your neck and shoulders. Does that make sense? It's like you've been zapped. Chills ran up Parissa's spine as she put her hand over the bag in which her cards rested. She knew the exact feeling. She and Terran met eyes, and she knew in that moment that he felt it too. And it wasn't really just this book about the anomalies. I also found another book. Nissa swapped one book for another, setting the new title on top. This book talks about how long before Sageno was here, this well was drilled not too far off from where the city was built. We can see the thing from the embassy tower. You know that big water spout out there? It turns out it's called Fly Geyser. Apparently, when they drilled into the ground, water blew from the earth in a jet, but it's scalding hot. As water poured out, minerals started to build up over time and form a cone, which continues to spray water out. The cone is all these beautiful colors, and, well, you think opening up this well created a vortex? Terran asked. Looking at this book, Nissa replaced the book on history with a third book, one that Parissa recognized. She had seen Terran do it before, a book on the universe. This book talks about the energy of belief. The king mentioned it before. Without belief, the cards don't work. According to this author, everyone is the universe. Each of us is a co-creator of reality extending into time and space. Effectively, once you decide that you want to participate with that energy, there's this paradigm shift that happens. Ajax nodded and pulled a chair up to the table. Now, I'm not saying I know anything about this stuff, but it makes sense. If everything that we are is made of energy, then it would be plausible that our energy could create material reality. Right, Nissa continued, and that's where the anomaly comes in. My understanding of this theory is that with the amplification of this energy from the geyser, when we believe in something with all our being, we create something. And for whatever reason, these cards, they're just powerful. Or maybe it's the geyser that's powerful. Something has happened near us that changed these cards from paper and machine into something much more than that. The geyser would be like a heart, then, Terran added. I was informed that these cards were never meant to be magic. They're like tracking devices, really. That's all. But somehow they became something more. The theory from this anomaly book is that the more something sits near an anomaly, the more its molecules, the stuff that makes up the item, are changed. If the cards are made with metal from the area, that would explain why they activated the way that they did. Blackwell muttered as he read through the book. Or maybe the metal reacted with the electricity in the air, like you're saying. Either way, the energy became intrinsically connected with the material. It's a good theory. Prissa pulled her cards from her pocket and spread them out in front of her. It would also explain why the magic manifests differently based on circumstance and the user. If I'm putting my own personal energy into this and these cards are just the catalyst utilizing the energy that the geyser is throwing up out there, the results are incredibly personal. And the only reason the major arcana do the same thing every time is because whoever started using them first wrote down what happened, and we've all just convinced ourselves that whatever the outcome is must be the only outcome. Terran pulled his cards out as well, and everyone looked at them, silent for a moment. Nissa, Ajax mumbled. I think you cracked this whole thing wide open. It's time to let everyone out of this place. Terran grabbed a random card from the table and flipped it over, a smile at the corner of his mouth. He did not share what the card was with anyone else and quickly returned his deck to his pocket. Let's reconvene later today to hash out a plan. Unfortunately, I'm exhausted and I need a little bit of a break. Agreed, I'm tired. Parissa wiped sleep from her eyes. We'll come up with something and then... well, then everyone can finally fly out of this damn cage. Crazy shit. Hold on, let me take a bite of this cheese stick. I eat cheese sticks like an animal, and I just bite them versus peeling the string of the string cheese. I'm evil. It's the heart of the cards, Yugi! But yeah, if an entire city believes that they're gonna die, it would create that reality. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's part of why Sageno effectively cannibalized itself. Is because slowly over time, that became the reality. And then somebody like Talbot with that level of power solidifies that reality. Okay, so not just anyone in the city could do it. Yeah, exactly. If you don't have the belief in it, theoretically. I think everyone's collective belief would change the outcome, but I don't think that it would make them use the cards, you know what I'm saying? But I based a lot of this off of quantum entanglement theory, and then also if you're familiar with ley lines and vortexes, vortexes in general. A lot of psychics, particularly in the American Southwest, utilize vortexes to do crazy shit. If you ever have the opportunity to go to Sedona, Arizona specifically, that is a massive vortex spot, kind of close to Colorado, and it is one of the craziest places I've ever been. Effectively, everybody in the area is a psychic, and they all have their own specialties, but it is a very strange place. Or the last time I was in a place that had a vortex in it, and like the effects of the vortexes are like very real. The last time I was there, I was in this place called the Mystery Spot in South Dakota, and like some of this is perspective tricks, like this is just an illusion because the building is sideways. But the strange thing are these trees that legitimately grow in an arc. I wish I had more... like, they literally will... they don't know where up is. And, like, it's a whole forest of these things.
because the overall gravity is just like absolutely messed up in the area. Like everything is fucked up. So it made people build shit sideways, and it's super disorienting. I've never been in an area like this in my life. Like this is level ground and the trees are just all like, woo! You know, it's like, it's very weird. And not all of the trees do it, obviously, but the older ones clearly grew wrong and they have no idea what this is. This is Cosmos Mystery Area if you're ever in South Dakota. It is one of the strangest places I have ever been in my entire life. The electromagnetic charge is enough in that area, like nobody's cell phones worked. Like it was just absolutely insane. So, very weird. And I don't think the vortex in Arizona has the same kind of effect, but Sedona also is a beautiful place. Even if you're just touring the American Southwest and you're not really interested in the psychic shit, it is an oasis in the middle of just brown. It is just this beautiful, amazing, I mean, like, literal paradise in the middle of Arizona, in the middle of hell, with these crazy rock formations, and it's just an insane place. Thank you, Jace. Mm-hmm. They have a church, like this is their church that's there, but religious people from all creeds kind of gather in this place. I stood on this rock. Pretty fucking fun. It's beautiful. It's absolutely nuts. But for context too, Fly Geyser is also a very real thing. And it is super weird. It looks like a schmeenus. But it's a rainbow. This is like the natural color of the rock. Super weird. You can't really touch the water because one, it's 40 billion degrees, and two, it's toxic as fuck and causes all of these weird algal blooms. Super crazy. Not saying that the fountain is magical, but you never know. Does the Creed drink water from an underground spring directly from the geyser? Maybe. Potentially. My original thought with the Creed was that they were effectively drinking highly methanated water. Methane is incredibly toxic, and it is a hallucinogenic. And it is really powerful. The Oracle of Delphi in Greece, that would have been like the head oracle for the like ancient Greeks. They found that the temple at Delphi was on top of a methane spout, and it's very likely that all of those oracles were hallucinating balls and telling the future. So there's a lot of interesting inspiration here. Yeah, the rock is indeed not AI generated. It is absolutely just wacky as shit. But alright, I'll stop ranting about world building here. Assault. Terran, the tavern, January of the second year. Terran, get up! Terran jerked from his sleep, his heart pounding as someone banged on his door. He nearly tumbled out of bed as something shook the wall of the tavern, dust and debris trailing down as it was knocked free. He almost lost his feet out from underneath him and struggled to grip the bed with his numb, weak left hand. Perseus had thrown open his door, armor on, and pale as a ghost. Shraga's attacking the tavern. We need all hands on deck. Damn it! Terran cursed under his breath as he dove for his armor. What's going on? They're trying to smoke us out. They just started to bombard the outside of the building with cannons and are setting up a line of explosives. It set off a riot, and Atza is under siege. They barricaded us in and aren't letting people out of Atza. Terran nodded and attempted to fasten his armor with trembling and damaged hands. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. I'm going with Ajax to the wall to blast it open. I don't care what it takes. We have to let people out of here so they don't burn to death. Are you sure? I'm sure. You can stay here with Parissa. Give everyone a gun if we have them. Any weapons at all. Rally all the king's men, and let's get this taken care of. Perseus stepped into the room and fastened Terran's armor for him. Are you sure you can fight? I'm gonna have to. What about me? Ami slid into the hallway, a look of determination in their eyes. You're staying here. We can't have you dying on us, Perseus ordered. You're too important. I'm going with Terran to evacuate people out. I'm sure the cops have shown up to Sulfur by now, and as soon as you start to get everyone out, I'll call them and give them coordinates. I can help. Let me help. I've shot a BB gun before. I'll be fine. Perseus shook his head and charged out of the room. Let's get you some armor. Come on. Terran struggled into his boots, checked for his cards, and then took a deep breath to steady himself. This was it. He met Ajax at the door to the tavern, and Ajax adjusted his swords at his sides. We heading to the wall? Yep, same spot as before. We need a wider hole, and we need to make a path for the citizens. Terran looked out the window to find that the tavern had been surrounded by Na'a elites. Damn, there's a lot of them. Yeah, an uncomfortable amount. Let's move. Not yet, we're waiting for Ami. I'm not dragging that kid along with me. I'm not a kid, Ami muttered as they appeared from the back rooms of the tavern, now donned in the king's white uniform. Terran paused for a moment as he looked at them, surprised at how well it suited them. You have a high risk of dying, you realize that, right? Dude, this is the craziest thing that's ever happened to me in my life. I have an opportunity to help, and I'm not just gonna let a bunch of random people die because I didn't do anything. That is noble and also incredibly stupid, Ajax scoffed. You're doing the same thing, man. You don't have to be here. We need to find a way around these guards. We don't have the cover of night on our side. Terran drew a card and placed it onto his hand, the familiar jolt of electricity reminding him of the power he held. The metal wrapped its way around his palm, cold and strong. Flowers and leaves leaving steel marks on his skin. The Empress, he said. Let's cause some chaos. Get ready to run. He threw open the door to the tavern and placed his palm on the ground, just as he had seen Parissa do the last time she had drawn that card, at a time and a place that seemed like eons ago. As soon as his skin touched the cobblestone, the world began to rumble. After a moment of quaking and shaking, plants erupted from the ground, just like the water from the geyser. Cacti covered in spikes and thorns crawled their way across the ground, flowers exploding from their trunks and arms as they rolled like vegetative waves at everything. They launched into buildings and barricades, destroying everything in their wake. Elites were tossed up into the air as the ground beneath them fractured and spikes lodged their way into their bodies. At that, Terran ran. He hoped that Ami could keep up, and he charged through the disrupted elite line toward the hole in the wall. By the time they had made it through the main line, Terran found that no one on the enemy side followed, which gave them a moment of time. He was sure there would be much more awaiting them. The number of guards had nearly tripled from the last time that Terran was there, and he felt the lack of sensation in his hand and the aching in his shoulder. He feared for what was to come. Ajax hauled himself up onto the roof and laid down out of sight, and Terran followed, his left arm barely able to hold his weight. Ami had to give him a boost up the side of the building, and when all three of them finally found their hiding place, Ajax pointed to the cluster of elites that had been supplemented by random Segonites and guards. We need to get rid of the elites first. Agreed. Ami, you are going to stay up here and shoot at them. No matter what happens, don't come down, and keep your body hidden, Terran instructed. Got it. Ami's hands trembled as they pulled the gun from their shoulder. Do you know how to use it? I think I can figure it out. Point and shoot, kid. Ajax sighed. Point and... Whoa, what's going on? The elites had turned around and were yelling at something inside the hole that had been blasted open to allow people through to the outside. Someone stood on the opposite side of the wall. Someone Terran could not see. An elite raised his gun and pointed it threateningly. Oh, we need to do something, Terran. Terran froze for a moment, but shook away his hesitation. Let's go. Now or never. A BB gun. Yeah, Ami's prepared. He's prepared. They're prepared for death. They're prepared for war. Ami's just a dude. Just a guy. Yeah, I think Ami would agree. They are indeed just a little guy, and they have no idea what the fuck is going on. Absolutely. It's the police, eh? Yeah, fucking A, honestly. The police are about to make things 40,000 times worse. Rebellion. Parissa. Atza, January of the second year. Come quietly, and no one has to get hurt, Shraga shouted over the crowd as the city burned behind them. Stop all of this nonsense. No. Parissa stood her ground and hovered her hand over the pouch that contained her cards. The people deserve to know the truth. So what? Then. You're going to hold a hearing now? After half the city has burned down? It burned down because you let it. You allowed this to happen. Blackwell spat, fury on his tongue. Get out of the way, Shraga. I will not be ordered about by a con man, they sneered, raising a hand for their elites to prepare for battle. Perseus looked over his shoulder and yelled into the inn. Start pushing civilians toward the hole in the wall. Get as many people out of here as possible. The king's men mobilized and began to guide Segonites out of the way and toward their freedom. The terrain had become nearly impassable thanks to the plants that Terran dug up with his card, but Parissa was prepared to fight on it. Unfortunately, so were the elites at Shraga's side. The vegetation kept them from following the citizens, but had also created an enclosed arena for them to fight to the death in. What's the plan? Perseus muttered under his breath, cocking his rifle. I don't want to kill them. Wound as many as we can. We just need to whittle their numbers down until they surrender, Parissa replied. I don't feel good about this. I love you, Parissa said. I hope you know that. If we get out of here, we're settling down. Agreed. Get them out of the way, Shraga ordered. Perseus shot first, directly at one of the embassy guards. He shot through their leg, perfect aim, and the guard collapsed with no chance of getting up. Blackwell drew a borrowed blade and charged forward at the elite guard, yelling, This is madness! Put your weapon down! A bang echoed across the square and a bullet lodged itself into Perseus's armor on his arm, knocking him backward a little bit. He cried out as he recoiled, a crack sounding as he attempted to keep himself steady. Parissa, with all the speed she had, dashed to Blackwell's side, her dagger drawn, and cut through the enemy he had missed. She only needed to wear them down enough to stop them from getting back up. A barrage of gunfire exploded out of the guard's gun and directly into Blackwell, who managed to dodge a few of the bullets as he wrestled the tip of the rifle away from his body, but they grazed his skin, despite his borrowed armor. Blackwell, I need you to get into the back line. You're not prepared for this, Parissa ordered. I'll fight dying for my city, damn it! Blackwell shouted. I'm not letting them take this place from me. Blackwell slipped out of the way of the bayonet of the gun, just barely. The entire street was nothing but a box full of gunfire. With one skilled swipe, Parissa sliced at the hands of the gunman, forcing him to drop his rifle. She kicked him to the ground and then, with a swift boot to the head, knocked him unconscious. Parissa, I'm getting bombarded back here, Perseus shouted. Parissa looked over her shoulder to make sure Perseus was not being flanked. Her eyes met Shraga's. Shraga looked down the sights of their gun, pointed it right at Perseus's head, and then fired. The bullet hit Perseus in the chest, just at the top of the breastplate. Whatever type of rounds Shraga used, the bullet pushed directly through the metal of his armor and lodged there, solidly stuck in place. The force of the blow knocked him onto his back, and he cried out as he began to bleed. Perseus! Parissa shrieked and spun to face Shraga. Please, stop this. This is insanity. What you're doing is insane, Shraga barked back. I will not have your antics put my people in danger. I know what's best for them, and what's best is to stay here. Blackwell ran past Parissa and toward the front of the tavern, ducking out of the way of stray bullets while the king's men fought off guards as they escorted people away from Atsa. I'll get him inside. Don't stop fighting. The rifleman behind Parissa raised his gun, aiming it at Perseus. Perseus, incoming fire! Parissa screamed. Perseus looked up, fear in his eyes, as he attempted to stop the blood that poured out of the top of his uniform, staining it red. Blackwell looked back beyond Parissa at the rifleman. The elite guard pulled the trigger. At the bang, Parissa covered her eyes. Perseus scrambled backward as Blackwell froze for a moment. He had stepped between the elite's rifle and Perseus, alone in the middle of the street. He looked down at his chest where the bullet had missed his breastplate and hit him directly below the collarbone. When he looked back up at Parissa, all the color faded from his face, and he fell first to his knees, then to the dirt. Would you care to be next, or do you surrender? Shraga snarled. Let us go, Parissa sobbed. Please, you're hurting so many people. The world outside will hurt us, you fool. It's okay to be afraid. I get it. The unknown is scary. But wouldn't it be better to know the truth? I know the truth. Shraga cocked their rifle and aimed it at Parissa instead. The truth is that this is the only place we've ever been safe, and that you're going to kill us. Parissa inched her hand closer to her deck. No. The truth is that you're afraid of change, of learning and of growing. The truth is that this fear is going to kill us. A bullet lodged its way into Parissa's armor, and it knocked the wind out of her lungs, but it did not set her back. Gunfire came from somewhere behind her, and she hoped it was not aimed at her. When her dagger met Shraga, it sliced through their council member robes and drew blood. Her hand whipped into her pocket, and she drew a card, slamming it onto her skin. Immense power rushed through her fingertips at the usual blast of magic, complemented by what she could only hope was strength. She needed all the strength she could get. Her next strike cut through Shraga like butter, leaving them maimed and limping. Guards, help! Shraga cried out, looking for backup, and raised their gun again. Another bullet shot into Parissa's chest, and she felt herself become dizzy as a wet warmth spread itself through her clothes and across her skin. I won't kill you, Shraga, Parissa huffed. Every breath labored. I'm giving you one last chance. Put your weapon down. Not until your treacherous face is wiped off of this earth. Rough. Q, why do we build the wall from Hades Town, right? Hades Town was also, the original album, not necessarily the musical, was a pretty large inspiration for this as well. It was like one of the first things I listened to on repeat. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Well, and it's funny because Hades Town is a cautionary tale against capitalism. So, definitely very fitting. Synergy. Terran, the wall. January of the second year. Terran jumped down from the rooftop and dove for the nearest elite he could, hoping to distract them for long enough to save whoever was beyond the wall. As soon as his feet touched the ground, he reached for another card. When the paper brushed his hand, it took a moment to take, and he drew his blade. "Hey!" Terran yelled. "Let us through!" Every single guard drew their weapons, ready to stop Terran from coming through at all costs. One of the armed citizens raised a threatening rapier in Terran's direction. "Step back, citizen. This is an active war zone." The guard that pointed his rifle at the person beyond the wall stepped through the hole to get closer to his target, but could not get far before Ajax intervened. He flew from the roof as well, blades shining in the noontime sun, and began to cut the guards down with little hesitation. In 2 clean swipes, he eliminated one of the new Na'a mercenaries, and the battle truly began. The area erupted in noise and movement as the guards jumped to action, and Terran was lost in a sea of violence. Terran stumbled back away from the blade of the elite that jumped at him, their blade glistening in a way he had never seen before. The bang of bullets echoed all around him as sand spat up from the ground and adobe blasted off corners of the building behind him in the fray. Something exploded behind Terran's head and above him on the rooftop he had just come from. "Terran!" Ami shouted. "I need some help up here. They're throwing explosives." A stone dropped in Terran's stomach as the elite's blade sliced over his head again. He should have never brought Ami along. "Ajax!" someone shouted beyond the wall. "I have them! I can't get to you!" Terran glanced down at his hand to find that he had drawn the tower, and he turned his eyes to the building that had nearly collapsed when he and Parissa blew the original hole in the wall. With any luck, the card would help him collapse the building on his enemies, but it may block off the hole outside altogether. It was a risk he had to take. In a split-second decision, Terran grabbed a fistful of sand from the ground and threw it into the faces of his attackers, making a break for the opposite set of buildings. He needed to collapse a building that would not crush Ajax in the process and was far enough away from Ami to keep them safe. A bullet whizzed past Terran's ear as he ran. As he slid across the road, he tumbled past the bodies of guards that Ami had picked off from the roof. The remainder of the elites clustered mostly around Ajax, who took a beating alone. There would be no way for Terran to get him out of the cluster of guards without one of them getting hurt. So now the only thing he could do was open the wall. Hopefully that would be enough. He stumbled to the closest section of metal and pushed his palm to the wall, causing the ground to shake. Within moments, the steel of the structure began to creak and moan as its foundation crumbled. In one great sigh, the bottom of it buckled as if it were being pulled in upon itself, twisting and cracking as it collapsed under its own weight. An explosive detonated near Terran's feet, and he scrambled back as he dodged the concussive blast. The second time, Terran was not so lucky. Another bomb went off and threw Terran against the external wall of a nearby building, which cracked from the force of the blow. He cradled his head as his ears rang, his head swimming. As Terran's vision flitted in and out of inky blackness like fish in a murky pond, he could barely make out the shape of someone running from the collapsing wall into the battle. A streak of pink among all of the white, of armor and red of blood. Ajax, clustered in the center of elites and mercenaries, bobbed in and out of the blades, bleeding from where the rifleman had shot him. A crazed look possessed him, and he slashed at everyone around him in a frenzied fury. The stranger passed something to Ajax as quickly as they could, and then an elite's blade went up and then came down on their head. They were losing. Terran dragged himself to his feet. He realized he could no longer hear gunshots coming from the rooftops behind him. Ami struggled with someone on the roof. During all of this, one of the mercenaries had managed to scramble up the side of the building to their hiding spot. They attempted to throw them off and back onto the ground, but did not have the strength to. In one quick motion, the mercenaries shoved their blade into Ami's torso, and Ami crumpled into a heap, out of Terran's sight. I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break here while we suffer through ads. Bezos will pay for the revolution. I love it. Yeah, rip on me. Terrible. Yeah, the tower is, I'm surprised how many times it came up in this book, and in this series as a whole. But it's also one of the most impactful cards in my own personal life. Yeah, crazy. It's definitely a very impactful card for me. Oh my god. Danny. Why? This is gold. I mean, you're right though. It's the heart of the cards, Yugi. You gotta believe. You gotta believe. I love it. Alright. He could not let Ami die. A massive hole had been broken open in the city's perimeter as the wall fell down, a wide stretch of desert now visible beyond. As the battle raged, civilians came pouring from every direction and out through the gap in the wall to freedom. Terran drove his hand into his pocket for another card, hoping for something that would turn the tide in their favor. When a blow knocked him off his feet as it hit him in the back of the legs, he gasped for air, his mouth filling with dirt. Looking over his shoulder, he found that the guard that had gone missing beyond the wall had run back inside to help in the fight and had slashed at the back of Terran's legs with something that burned like nothing he had ever felt. The searing pain felt like thousands of fire ants and crawled up his legs as the wound was exposed to fresh air. He cried out against the pain, ground his teeth, and slapped his card onto his hand despite everything. A wave of cooling relief rushed down his body and out into the ground. As it passed over him, the burning in his legs washed away as if in a tide, and a rippling glow of energy cascaded out around him, coating Ajax as it went. "I'm fine!" Ami screamed from somewhere on the roof. "Terran, I'm fine!" Another guard sliced through Terran's bad arm, and he hissed as the card's power left him. The guard behind him tried to grab his jacket and pull it off, but Terran managed to spin himself around and keep his jacket securely on his body. He was sure they wanted more than anything to prevent him from using a card again. And then, out of the corner of his eye, Terran saw it. Suddenly, among the group of guards, an explosion of reflective metal spun in a whirlwind of blades and light. Ajax sliced at his foes with a frightening precision. As the guards attempted to flee or fight, the blades that floated and swirled around his body, as if on their own, tore at their skin and stabbed through them without remorse. A bullet cracked through the shoulder of the guard in front of Terran. Ami hit them dead on, and in their panic, they decided to retreat from the fight. As they turned to flee, Terran lunged forward and drove his blade through them, their bodies slumping over and onto the ground, motionless. One final bullet pierced the guard that held onto Terran's jacket, and they fell to the ground with their comrade, dead. Terran froze in the sea of people screaming and rushing around him, like a rock jutting from the rapids. Thousands of people pushed their way out of the city, but others charged past him in the opposite direction. Splotches of inky black darted into the city and around him, and Terran finally gasped for air as Ami climbed down from the roof. The whole area smelled of blood and dust, and Terran collapsed to the ground as the terrified citizens of Sageno flooded from their prison. Unity, Parissa, Atza, January of the second year. "This isn't a crusade, Councilman Shraga." Parissa looked up from where she stood, past the barricade that Shraga had positioned themselves on and up toward the person that towered over them. Red robes dripped over dense leather armor dyed black and marred from combat. The overseer stood above Shraga, the silencer close by their side and ready to defend him, weapons in their hands. Parissa squinted into the sun at their silhouetted outlines, and Shraga turned as best as they could to face them.
Order your men to stand down. Now, Murada commanded. You heretics won't order me around. Shraga dragged themselves to their feet, wobbling and wounded. It's done, Shraga. You've lost control of the city. Terran Lahal just blew a hole into the side of the wall that your elites won't be able to guard. It's too big. People have flooded out into the desert and outside help has come in. You have nothing left to protect, so you either need to stand down or die. I won't let you hurt people any longer. Shraga stumbled to their knees, sighing and gazing at the buildings around them as they burned. After a moment of deliberation, they threw their gun to the ground and hung their head. There's nothing that can be done. You've done enough damage already, someone spat. Parissa turned to find Esmond there, flanked by the council members who had fled Na'a. Councilman Shraga, I and all other members of the Embassy Council by executive vote have hereby determined you unfit to hold a council seat. You have hereby been expelled from the council and your seat will be filled promptly. Esmond raised his chin. You're despicable and don't deserve the recognition. Esmond. Parissa limped to Esmond's side, clutching her chest. Oh, I'm so glad you're all right. Parissa, you're hurt. Esmond clutched her elbows to steady her and screamed over his shoulder. Medic! I need a medic! Perseus, help him first. Parissa's knees buckled out from underneath her and she sank onto the dirt and cobblestone. And Blackwell, they're back at the tavern. Elites and the Creed alike swarmed around her, flocking to the tavern and to her side. A Creed member pulled her armor off to reveal that Shraga's bullet had pierced through the metal and some of her skin, but not deep enough to embed itself into her chest. The Creed healer tore away her hooded tunic to clean the wound, and Parissa gripped Esmond's hand. Murada said that Terran got through the wall. Parissa labored, her forehead beating from sweat from the pain. If he did, that's news to me. We only came to the decision to leave the embassy once we decided we could not stand by and do nothing. We gathered as many medics and elites that were on our side as we could and are trying to deliver aid to the rest of the city. Councilman Esmond, an elite shouted. I have some bad news. The Creed medic pressed a bandage to Parissa's chest and placed a gentle hand on the back of her head. Heal well, they said. You've done a great thing for she who sees today. What is it? Esmond called in response, hesitant to leave Parissa's side. It's Blackwell, Well... The elite approached and stopped short of where Parissa knelt in the dirt. Shit. Esmond hurried to his feet and ran off somewhere out of Parissa's sight. She dragged herself to standing, wobbly and lightheaded, but forced herself to limp toward the tavern anyway. Inside, elite guards patched up their commander. Parissa flew to him as fast as she could, her feet tripping underneath herself in her weakness. His body had been riddled with bullets, and he laid on a rough blanket that someone had pulled from a back closet. His blood stained the brown fabric, a dark, muddy red. She tumbled to his side and gripped his hand. Is it over? Perseus choked as an elite using shiny metal tweezers pulled a bullet that had been lodged into his shoulder from his body. I think it's done. The council is dealing with Shraga right now, and apparently Terran blew a massive hole in the wall. Parissa choked through tears. It killed her to see him like this. It seems that Creed members are clearing out any more violent rioters, so hopefully things will begin to calm down. Perseus hissed as his wounds were cleaned and his eyes fluttered closed. My mom. I didn't check to see who came with Esmond, but I'm sure she's there. I'll go check for you. We need to sedate him and get him into a place where we can give him more intensive medical care, an elite stated. Parissa nodded and for a moment thought about reaching for her cards, but recognized she did not have the physical strength to use one, even if she drew something helpful. Take care of him. We live to serve, the elite replied, and a few more arrived with a stretcher to transport Perseus to somewhere safer. Parissa followed them for as long as she could, before they loaded him into a transport cart with other wounded guards. Someone flew from the crowd, and Parissa locked eyes with Perseus's mother, who lunged at the cart, screaming about her child. An elite calmly pushed her back as the cart rolled away, and Parissa's heart wrenched in half. She was sure Perseus would survive, as he had not been hit anywhere vital, but she knew that the damage would likely be irreversible. Shraga sat on the side of the road in handcuffs as another body, carried by two more guards and covered in a drape, passed her. Parissa shook her head at the sheer loss of life and stiffened up as someone returned to her side. Blackwell did not survive, Esmond stated plainly. He stood in front of Perseus and took a bullet for him.
He probably saved Perseus's life. Shraga is going to be tried for treason. They don't deserve to see the light of day outside of a prison cell. As long as they get justice, it's all we can hope for. I should get to the edge of the city. You should rest, Esmond insisted, grabbing her by the shoulders. You nearly died. Parissa nodded and let her eyes fall to the ground. There's so much death, Esmond. I know. Esmond pulled her into a hug and rocked her there, the smell of sage heavy on his clothes. I'm so sorry you had to go through all of this. No one deserves this kind of life. Do you think we'll all be able to live outside at all? Live like normal people? Only time will tell. Just know that no matter what happens, you always have a place in my home. Suddenly, as if taken by a heat wave, Parissa began to sob. Her body shuddered and ached in the spot where her chest had nearly been pierced, and she cried. She cried for every moment of her childhood that she had lost to her father and to the lie that had sustained Sagano for the entire time it had existed. She cried for her mother and all the others who had died for the monstrosity of a system to live. She cried in relief that at least those that she was closest to had survived it. Esmond held her tight and said nothing, a pillar in the storm. Her tears soaked his shirt, leaving dark stains where they fell, and the two of them braced for the future. Crazy. Rip Blackwell. Not Agent K. I know. I'm so sad. He took too much damage. Too many hit points. So sad. He was a good one. He definitely didn't deserve it. Yeah, I don't think Shraga can cope, to be quite honest. Hole. Terran. The Wall. January of the second year. Ajax's chest heaved up and down in exhaustion. Sweat, blood, and dust on his brow. And the swords that hovered around him vanished in an explosion of sparks and light. Terran felt himself get sick as he stood there among the screaming citizens who clawed at each other to escape as buildings burned around them. Soot and mud was streaked across their faces and burns covered their arms and bodies, clothing torched and tattered. Children called for their mothers and dashed about to avoid getting run over in the stampede. The two of them, Ajax and Terran, stared at each other for a moment until someone tackled Terran from behind, nearly taking him to the ground. Terran, holy moly, dude, you saved my life! Terran wrestled with whoever had grabbed him, finding that it was Ami, who brought him into a tight bear hug. Terran shook a little bit, head dizzy from the entire conflict, and his eyes met the ground where he watched the crowd rush over the bodies of downed elites. I don't know what you did, but I'm fine. Terran looked down at the tear in their shirt where their bayonet had torn not only through the fabric, but their body. I hit the dirt and everything was going black and I don't know, that energy, whatever you did, rushed over me and suddenly I came back. You're a literal lifesaver. I couldn't save everyone, Terran muttered. Oh, what? Who died? Ajax spun on his heels and dashed across the cobblestone to the body that lay on the ground where he had been fighting. Terran realized now that the person who had fallen was Allison, from the lab beyond the wall. Allison! Ajax slid to his knees, lifting her from the ground. Her pink hair cascaded from her arms, and he shook her gently, hoping to rouse her. Damn it! He cursed. Terran stepped to his side and walked his eyes over Allison's body, her wound clear and her clothes stained from her injury. At least it seemed her death had been quick. I'm sorry, Ajax, I should have been closer to you. I could have stopped this. You did exactly everything you should have. Ajax's hands trembled as he scrambled for his cards. I didn't know that you used them. Ajax's fingers shook as he attempted to draw a card with his thick gloves on. I don't think they can bring her back. I've never... At least as far as I've read. Just hush for a second, he growled. He slapped the card onto the back of his hand, and Terran watched as the paper burned, the smell of singeing flesh mixing with the burning of wood and stone from the city around them. As soon as the card took, Ajax pressed his hand onto Allison's chest. Her body convulsed, and her eyes shot open, beams of light shining from where her eyes should have been. And after a moment, the body settled back onto the ground again. Something rose from Allison, a translucent version of herself, and she looked down at where the elite's sword had run her through. I really didn't think that this was how my day was going to go. she murmured, her voice wavering as though she spoke through water.
Allison, I'm so sorry.
Ajax trembled, standing to meet her.
You shouldn't have had to die for this.
I knew I was going to die either way, whether this way or by Lycus Security's hands. I betrayed them, and as I've said, they don't take kindly to that kind of thing. Everyone's free, and that's what matters. Terran looked at the hole he had created with his cards and at all the people fleeing. Their numbers slowed as the first wave of them reduced to a trickle. And now Terran noticed that among them and rushing in the opposite direction, armed officers in black dove into the city rather than away from it. "Hey!" Ami cried to one of them. Wait, I'm the one who called you guys. Stop and listen to me for a second." Ami rushed off to speak with the law from outside, and Allison nodded. "Well, we just blew this whole thing wide open."
Do you think people will be happy? Ajax asked. I never thought it would be my mission after all this time to set people free. I was really just trying to get rid of the corruption, that's all. I hadn't set out to be some kind of, liberator. All that I sought was justice.
Terran's brow nodded in the center of his forehead as he listened to them. He racked his brain for any instance of Ajax over the last couple of years, and he had never seen him, whether inside the king's ranks or outside of them. I was hoping that someone like you would eventually do something like this. And if you haven't done it, I guarantee someone else would have. Allison put her hand on Ajax's arm. You're hurt. You should take some time for some well-deserved rest. My time here is growing short.
Thank you for these.
Ajax held up his cards.
Without you, I would have been done for.
You can thank Zach. I'm sure he would have loved to see it. I'm lucky he had a half-finished deck that I could work on. Ajax chuckled, weak and filled with barely enough muster to be a convincing laugh. Dr. Cox is still out there. When this whole thing wraps up, she said she'd testify in your favor once the Sagano Project tries to take this to court, which is bound to happen. The worst is over, but it doesn't mean you've won the fight. Stay strong and see this through. Get back to your life. Get back to him. Allison pointed to Terran, who froze. When Ajax turned, Terran saw a flash of familiarity there. You deserve happiness. Like embers in a breeze, Allison's form faded and floated upward and into the beyond. An officer spoke with Ami, and two more approached to attempt to save Allison, though Terran knew she was long gone. Ajax stepped back and watched them try in vain, and Terran cleared his throat.
Just who are you? Exactly.
He pressed.
When did you get a significator if she just gave you a deck?
Without saying anything, Ajax drew another card from his deck, hesitating for just a moment.
It's been a minute, hasn't it?
When the card touched his skin, the black in his hair flaked away like pages turning into a book, to reveal red underneath. Red like copper. Red like fire. The eyes that turned to meet Terran's after the card was done were ones that Terran recognized, and all the air seemed to leave Terran's lungs as though he were choking.
Lexus, he whispered.
You did good without me. Lexus grinned, weary. I really thought this would go a lot worse. You bastard! Terran yelled, shoving Lexus hard in the chest. Lexus gasped as Terran punched directly into an open wound. You were here this entire time? I went to your funeral! Lexus braced, Terran on his shoulders, trying to keep him from swinging any more.
Easy. I was stuck like this for what felt like forever. You saw what Shraga did. They destroyed all the decks and I had to lay low. I was going to bide my time for a year or so and then grab a new deck, but they destroyed all of them before I got the chance.
So when we fought Talbot, that was
a decoy. Not real. I used the magician before the battle to blend in with the crowd, and then, despite the risk they knew they took, one of my followers used the cards to become me. They took the blow, and it allowed me and Allison to complete our plan.
Which was? Lex said nothing more and merely looked toward the hole in the wall.
They're free now, Terran. They know the truth. The whole world does.
Terran raised another arm to hit Lexus again, but paused, his fist trembling in the air. Instead, he began to sob. He was sure he looked not at all like a leader, and Lexus took him into his arms and let him cry. Hey, Terran! Ami interjected, still distracted by the officer and the entire situation. Oh. Who the hell is this? I'm sorry, Ami. Taryn apologized and wiped his eyes. I should have never dragged you into all of this. Everything's going to be fine. SWAT got here and they're going to do a sweep. I explained to them who the bad guys are, so their job is to help stop rioters from burning the entire place to the ground. They're going to mostly be detaining people they think are a threat. But otherwise, they've called in more aid for the people outside the city. Most everyone looks like they made it out okay. It's just a matter of figuring out where to house them now. Taryn clapped Ami on the arm and let out a deep breath, something he felt like he had been holding on to for over a year. It's finally over. Not yet, Lexus said. But you're not alone. We can handle this together. Honestly, talk about the longest con of all fucking time. Yeah, literally, Parissa shoots at everything. It's true, though. Shit's crazy. It is unfortunate that effectively, because the king's cards got cooked, because he had to have the right deck to be convincing, that then he got stuck in a disguise. Like, that's awkward and kind of awful. Does suck. I'm sure he would have said something sooner. Acclamation. Parissa. Reno. March of the second year. Here today with me are three extraordinary young individuals, Perseus, Parissa, and Taryn, who have recently escaped from Sagano, the disaster of a city that has been dominating Nevada news for over the last month. Our reporters here at The View were able to get to the bottom of who was behind the liberation of Sagano, and we found that these three were at the core of the conflict and responsible for saving thousands of lives. Parissa covered her eyes as a hot light passed over her face, more concentrated than the sun had ever been, and the warmth of the light radiated across her brow. She shifted in the plush armchair she had been seated in after someone had pressed some kind of powder all over her face. She tugged a little at the buttoned blouse she had been given. The woman next to her addressed a square box and a swath of people who sat behind it, hands over their mouths and shock on their faces. A camera, Ami had explained. They were being broadcast to the entire country. Actually, that's a typo also. Look at that, the final one. Thank you for tuning into The View. I'm Siri Salini, and today we're busting open an exclusive interview with these so-called Seganites. Siri, the reporter, as Parissa was told she was called, turned to face the three of them, and Perseus took Parissa's hand. Now, this is a government conspiracy that is gripping the nation. This big of a secret, staying in the dark for so long, has got the American people rattled. Not much information has been circulating about this, and this will be the first chance that people have to understand exactly what went on in there. Can you tell us what happened? Why you all were trapped there? Well, Taryn cleared his throat and sat up, his new pants scratching against the chair. It started generations ago with a distant relative of mine. The city was originally established as his twisted social experiment, I guess. We weren't told much about the outside world, but we were led to believe it was a better place inside the walls. They promised us a utopia, Parissa added, her eyes to the floor. We soon realized it was a gilded cage, and even then only gilded for a few. We were born in that place, and we knew nothing else. Perseus nodded. The wealthy and the guards kept a tight grip on the flow of information. They controlled every aspect of our lives, what we learned, who we interacted with, and where we could go. Everyone had their place, and we had no contact with the outside world. The audience responded with an eerie silence, and Parissa's hair stood up on the back of her neck. The reporter leaned in and nodded, encouraging them to continue. I see. Can you tell us what led up to those final moments? The fire could be seen from Reno. It was so intense. The breaking point came when we discovered the truth about the outside. We stumbled upon some hidden records, a book the original founder had written, among other things. Taryn pressed his lips together. We learned that the founders were corrupt and really just used us for their own gain. The inequalities and injustices inside the city were unbearable. People were suffering terribly. We couldn't take it anymore. Parissa felt tears come to her eyes despite not wanting them to. She had found herself being kept up in the middle of the night by terrors that danced across her mind like phantoms, and she would awaken in a stranger's bed. They had been given the best accommodations thanks to Dr. Cox, and the bed was warm and pleasant, but still not home. Perseus rubbed a gentle hand across her back. We decided to take matters into our own hands. We organized a resistance and planned to escape. We hoped that the rest of the people would join us, but things exploded. Too many people wanted different things. Some felt violence was the only answer, but we were able to get some organization together. The most important thing was dispersing the truth. And did you? Siri probed. We did. In a way. It's kind of hard not to see the truth with the massive hole in the wall. Parissa sighed. The guards just couldn't control everyone. The wealthy then also finally realized they had lost control. Terran looked Siri directly in the eye. It all crumbled in a matter of days. Perseus closed his eyes as if trying to forget. It was a turning point. As soon as we overpowered their militia, we finally felt the taste of freedom. It sounds like a remarkable accomplishment, and from what I hear, you all barely made it out with your lives. Siri adjusted the way she sat in her plush chair. I understand that the U.S. government is now involved and is helping to relocate everyone. Can you tell us what you know about that? It's not much. Parissa honestly wished she knew more. The government on the outside was almost just as secretive as the one on the inside. I know that armed forces arrived shortly after we blew a hole in the wall. They've been working tirelessly, at least, to try and get us some kind of identification and figure out where to put us. It's a big change for all of us. Fear. Parissa could hear the fear in Perseus's voice. We're slowly adapting to the outside world, but at least this new government is providing temporary housing and support. We're incredibly grateful for their help. We're excited to start a new life, free from the restrictions of the city. We were all starving in there, Terran said. An animal on display is what Parissa felt like. She found herself getting increasingly nervous by the moment, and she absentmindedly played with the ring on her left hand. Perseus nudged her expectantly, and she inhaled, realizing she had begun to stare off into space. So, it was a combination of information control and lack of personal freedom that led to the uprising? Siri asked. Terran laced his fingers together and leaned forward on his knees. We were prisoners in our own lives, each of us for different reasons. We all paid heavy prices, whether my parents, Perseus' sister, or Parissa's mother. They all succumbed to the system in one way or another. The embassy, the leaders of our city, and the guards, they lived in relative luxury, while everyone else struggled. And the worst part was that we were born into this life with no say in the matter. Parissa wondered how her father would have taken all of this, probably not well. It was our parents' decisions, and they didn't know the truth either. We realized that if we didn't act, we would spend our entire lives in this controlled environment and that people would die as a result. It's incredible how your desire for freedom and truth united everyone. Can you tell us more about the moment when you decided to organize the resistance and how you managed to get the message out to the citizens? We didn't, Terran clarified. Lexus had not been invited, but Parissa assumed he waited somewhere in the wings for them. Without the people who had come before us, who had seen the problems and helped educate us, we wouldn't be here. We merely picked up where they left off after they couldn't fight anymore. Perseus leaned back in his chair. To be fair, though, as soon as we got a hold of solid information about the outside world, we knew it would be a wake-up call for everyone else. We just had to get it out. It must have been life-changing to face that freedom for the first time, Siri said as she dabbed at the corner of her eye with a tissue. Parissa wondered if her tearfulness was faked for the camera. Can you share how freeing it was at the time? There's nothing freeing about death, Terran interrupted, though Parissa was not certain if he meant to. There was nothing glorious about this fight. Thousands of people died because someone else decided to put us in a box. Well, thank you, Perseus, Parissa, and Terran, for sharing your incredible journey with us. That's all the time we have. We wish you all the best in this new chapter of your lives. The audience erupted into applause, and eventually a blinking red light above the camera stopped. Off air, someone called. Terran merely buried his face in his hands as the reporter stood, adjusting her papers. You all did really well for your first time on camera. Thanks for the info. There's free water and snacks backstage if you're peckish. The three of them sat there for a moment until someone dressed in all black ushered them off the stage that had been designed to look like a living room. Before long, they were no longer inside and instead had been pushed out onto concrete walkways that flanked the road behind the studio. A vehicle, what Parissa had learned was called a car, rushed past her down the street, picking up dust as it went. She guarded her face from the silt, and Perseus put his hand around her waist as the three of them watched it turn a corner and out of sight. You three okay? You all look like you've seen an alien or something. Ami strode down the walkway with their long legs to meet them and gave Terran a hug. Terran nodded, and his eyes trailed up the side of an absurdly tall building. All right, last ad break for the night. Sorry, y'all, we're so close to being done, but I can't snooze the ads anymore. Jeff Bezos won't let me. Yeah, thanks for the scoop. Get out. Yeah, we love corporatized news media. You know what I'm saying? She's like, that's nice. Your trauma will make me money. Ad town. Ad town. I went over stream for an hour. But that's okay. 'Cause we're almost done. And then I'm gonna go get in the shower and go the heck to sleep. Oh, whoa. That's weird. I love how I'm working on reading this and I get an article just titled, "In 1991, 8 people sealed themselves inside a glass world in the Arizona desert for 2 years, and the experiment nearly unraveled when oxygen began disappearing from the air they were breathing." It's like, well, yeah, no shit. If you got no oxygen, you're gonna die. But I do think that that's kind of funny. Google is like listening to me talk about this and it's like, hey, these people gonna die. Crazy. All right, now we're back. We're just adjusting. You did great on TV. Seriously, you all are naturals. Ami leaned close to Taryn in a way that Perseus used to when he and Parissa first met, and Parissa fought a smile at the corner of her mouth. My mom said you can stay with her sister here in Reno if you want. Unfortunately, we all have to stay in a place where the government can keep track of us for now, Perseus complained, from one cage to another. We'll be fine. We've faced worse, someone said. Lexus joined them and clapped Perseus on the back. The 5 of them started down the street toward the front of the studio where a car waited for them. It would return them to the hotel where they and several others stayed, merely a temporary solution to the thousands of people who now needed a home. This whole thing is a mess, Taryn huffed. I wish they would at least let some of us back into Sagano. Not everything was burned to the ground, and I'm sure people are eager to get back to their houses. Dr. Cox is figuring out the logistics. The whole thing's a sticky mess, certainly. We just need to be patient. Lexus shuffled his cards as he slid into the car and drew one. 2 of pentacles reversed. Act with integrity, and everything will work out, Parissa recalled. All of them loaded into the car, a van with darkened windows and a silent driver, and they made their way back to the hotel, hoping no one would pay them any mind. When they arrived, however, an entire mob of people blocked the front of the hotel. Damn, Lexus muttered under his breath. Someone must have leaked where they were holding us. What's scarier? Taryn joked. The elites or this? This, Perseus choked. We've got this. Parissa took his hand and gave it a good squeeze. We're together. That's right, Lexus confirmed. Besides, if anyone decides to do anything freaky, we have the cards. We can just... Lexus! Taryn strained. Just saying. The 5 of them laughed as they fled the vehicle, bombarded by questions and flashes from cameras into their temporary home. At the end of the day, Parissa gazed from her window several stories higher than any building she had ever been in, and watched the sun set, casting oranges and pinks over the mountains. The world beneath her was a sea of glimmering lights and a rainbow of color like nothing she had ever seen. A loud noise rumbled the hotel room, and she looked up to see a giant metal bird fly overhead. Perseus came to her side and rested his chin on the top of her head. We're gonna survive out here, right? He asked. We have to. We didn't go through all of that to run back into that hellhole. As the sun dipped down below the horizon, casting a spectrum of colors across the endless sky, they stood there hand in hand. Parissa felt almost lighter than air as the weight of everything that Sagano was had been lifted. She watched the world transform before her. In that moment, under the canvas of the setting sun, she felt a shared sense of freedom she had never known, the promise of a future filled with endless possibilities. It was a world she was only beginning to understand, and as the sky darkened and the stars emerged, she knew they were together, bound by the love, the friendship, and the truth that had carried them through. The future was uncertain, but they faced it hand in hand, ready to embrace the infinite horizon. Crazy. And that's the end. I'm amused that Talbot was like, I know he's lying, but he's useful, so fine. Yeah, I think he really thought he had more cards in his hand than he actually did. Hubris was a killer in that instance, for sure. I'm sure Dr. Cox is trying to ethically figure out what to do with him now. They're free to America 2026. This actually takes place in, I think, according to the timeline, actually 2060-ish. So, kind of interesting given where we are now. Pretty crazy. But hopefully you enjoyed it. If anybody's watching the VOD as well and you want to help me out, if you liked the content, you can indeed go to Goodreads. Let's see. Actually, not this one. Oh, it doesn't have enough pings yet to be able to find it. You can go to this link here and leave a review if you like. Don't forget to leave the star. You got to hit rate this book, and then it will allow you to leave a review. 2016 or 2060? 2060. I'm imagining that LaHale put everybody into the bubble during the escalation of the civil rights movement, and he was scared of integration. So that would put this at around 2060, give or take. 2062, question mark? But, yeah. Lumaris left a review. I'm very grateful to them. Again, they just popped us closer, just slightly closer to success. So thank you so much to everybody who has backed the campaign so far. I can't wait to ship out these very special books. Hopefully it'll give people the feel-good feelings during this time of extreme turmoil. I started writing this series before Trump. You know, that was in like 2014. And it is upsetting how prophetic it was. Well, we're free. Oh shit, plague. Can we go back? Right? Hantavirus, no! Just kidding. Everybody's freaking out about the hantavirus, and I don't know how to tell them that we in Colorado, we get hantavirus all the fucking time. And now everybody in the news has to be like, yep, there's a confirmed case of hantavirus. No, it's not linked to the cruise ship. No, not everybody's gonna die. It's okay. We're alright. It's just pee-pee-poo-poo disease. That would have really sucked that they just jumped out and then immediately COVID, though. Fucking terrible. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for supporting this book. I'm going to go ahead and go get in bed. As I said, if you're watching the VOD, this bad boy comes out in 2 days on the 28th of May. If you've already backed it, thank you so much. If you know people who would like to support this kind of project, especially, you know, supporting a trans author, during a time in which I'm having to flee the country because of what's going on, you know, to me, getting the message out is really what's important, to help people feel like they're not alone, that we are all facing whatever crazy shit this is, and we have the power to make things better. You know, share it with people who need a little bit of hope. Hopefully it will help. But I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to be working on writing my lovely, or actually I might be working on editing Fatal Mechanisms. We'll see what it has in store for me. It's either going to be working on the Baris novella or it's going to be working on Fatal Mechanisms. So we'll see. We will see. But I hope you have a fantastic evening. Enjoy your night, and I will see you bright and early tomorrow. Bye-bye, everyone.